The Tuesday, January 30th Board of Education regular board meeting. Are there any comments there's no comments for public comment, for closed session. So we will now adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening in the boardroom, and welcome to those in the boardroom and also those who are watching us virtually. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting Tuesday, January 30th. We will now move to language access.
Thank you. We have Spanish interpretation here in the boardroom and also through Zoom. Muy buenas tardes. Tenemos interpretación al español por si gustan escuchar la presentación en español aquí en la sala del consejo y también por medio de Zoom. We also have ASL interpretation available through Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There's no action to report from closed session, and now we'll hear from our student board member report. Anastasia, welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yesterday started a new semester, so for the schools that have block schedules, students are adjusting to new classes. The teacher work to contract also ended, so a lot of clubs are starting back up again at lunch because teachers are opening their doors to students again. And then earlier this month, Goleta Valley Junior High students had a walkout in support of increasing teacher salaries. And then at the high schools, we're planning or have had our winter pep rallies and are also planning or have had our winter formal school dances or spring school dances. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to the superintendent's report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. And we also had a superintendent advisory committee with the students, and they've identified mental health supports as one of the projects they'll be working on. So thank you for leading that group with me, too. Good evening, everyone. I'm saddened to start my report today with some very difficult news, and would like for us to take a moment of silence. We learned this weekend that our dear colleague Margie Ayavi passed away over the weekend. Many of you will remember Margie as a champion for children in Santa Barbara community, as the former executive director of the Santa Barbara Education Foundation. She was one of the warmest people I met since I arrived in Santa Barbara. And we know that many students and families received all sorts of support because of her generosity, compassion, and passion for the children of our school district. So I'd like to ask us to take a 30 seconds moment of silence in memory of our dear Margie. Thank you, and I apologize if some of you heard this for the first time in this meeting. I know many of you collaborated with Margie, coordinated with her, and participated in meetings. She was instrumental in helping us through COVID as well, really being flexible with other fundraising and supports that we could give to our families in need. She will be missed. I'm going to now turn my attention to a little bit of our agenda today, board members. I want to make sure that I report to you that in tonight's report called Success for All Students, you will notice, if we can go to the next slide. Next. You'll notice this very familiar graphic that's been shared with you on the multi-tier systems of support framework that we've been working on with SWIFT. Where it really lays out how we have whole system engagement between what happens with students and families, which are the purpose of our work, that our schools are the places of transformation, that our district is the point of intervention, and the state is a source of technical support. And these are working in tandem to make sure that we do the best that we can for students and families. The next slide, I want to talk a little bit about last meeting that we had, where many of you had a lot of questions for us around Tier 2 supports. We have been giving you reports on student outcomes. We gave you a report on the new reading program implementation, and you had a lot of questions about, well, how does it work? How do we do Tier 2 intervention? What does that look like? You'll hear about it more, like I said, but I did want to remind us that in a very healthy system, we have a perfect triangle where Tier 1 is where students receive research-based instruction that provides universal access for all students. They don't all come in at the same level. They come at different levels to our classrooms. We're very proud of the work that teachers led on universal access. We're going to be talking more about universal design for learning at our upcoming March 4th pupil-free teacher learning day. And of course, really enhancing the daily English language development, because we know our emergent multilingual students still need a lot of support, yet have to reach that Tier 1 rigorous instruction. So all students getting universal supports is that first tier. When students move into Tier 2, which is we expect it to be a smaller group of students, that's when they're getting additional support with small group instruction or tutoring. And then, of course, there will always be a Tier 3 group of students, which we expect to be at 3 to 5% of our student population that really need to get more intensified support in school. So this would be what a healthy system looks like. At a triangle, you would have students in these different tiers. What we know to be true, though, in the next slide, please, is that our current outcomes are showing us that we have far more students needing supports in Tier 2. And that signals to us as the point of intervention as a district that we really need to build a more robust Tier 1 instructional program. And we're doing it because we have adopted the curriculum for reading in elementary, which we talked about in the last meeting. We are doing some coaching with teachers. Teachers are attending training with Letters, Orton Gillingham, and others. We also have adopted EML curriculum. We just adopted the physics curriculum, or we opened the window for physics. We're going to be bringing you math curriculum. So really having rigorous instructional materials is going to help to strengthen that Tier 1. But once again, we know that not all kids will come at the same level into the different classrooms. But we do need to make sure that we are very clear with the board that Tier 2 is too big at this point, and we need to reduce that. So the next slide, you'll notice that we have what our theory of change is for us to do that. And the theory of change is that we're going to strengthen our Tier 1 high quality teaching. I've already talked about universal access, universal design for learning, TK through 12, daily high quality English language development, TK through 12, providing assessments for diagnostic and universal screening with progress monitoring, coordinating our personnel, facilities, curriculum, instruction, and support, time allocation and requirements, and ensuring that we have high-quality resources and engaging curriculum. If we do these things, then we can reduce the amount of students who need Tier 2 supports. And so I wanted to make sure that I followed up on the last meeting where we were asking questions from the curriculum implementation report. And so in tonight's report that Dr. Sheffield will be giving, you'll hear more about that. We are also moving up the reports for student outcomes to February. In our governance calendar, they were listed for March. We're moving them up because the LCAP requires us to have that sooner. And so you'll be hearing more on the data pieces about this whole system change that we're working through. So that was just a point of intervention and a way for you to understand the many pieces that we will bring in throughout the coming months and coming board meetings, and as a way to answer some of the very good questions you had last time. Next, we do have a special guest today. young man from Dos Pueblos High School. He's here with his father. And one of the truest joys of being an educator is seeing our students excel. Last Friday, I had the chance to see Iman Gordon here with Congressman Salud Carvajal, and he had a chance to show us an app he created called Finance Edu, which allows students, parents, and teachers to access financial education content. It's a very impressive app, and we've invited Iman here to show the board what he has developed. Welcome. We can give him a nice round of applause.
Thank you. So to begin tonight, I'd like to thank the board, first of all, for hosting me, as well as Dr. Maldonado and my principal, Mr. Woodard, for their support, as well as Congressman Carbajal for hosting this amazing competition and opportunity. So I'd like to begin by saying that I've been interested in finance since a very young age. I started checking the stocks on my iPod Touch when I was about 4 years old. I know, right? It's never too early to get started with compound interest. But since then, I've continued my interest, and I found that creating this course for all students of all backgrounds, and for free, was a way to combine my passions for personal finance and web development. So if we're able to, I have a demo here that we could sort of look more about what the app is, the features that it has. So. Thank you. Whether you're buying groceries or investing in stocks, finance is everywhere. But few, if any, financial education courses, especially those for youth, are online, accessible, and free. At Finance Edu, we seek to provide comprehensive, accessible, and free financial education for youth. My name is Emin Gordon, and without further ado, let's get started. One of the first things a user can do after signing in is to access their roles through settings. Now we have a number of different roles, each with their own functionality, but one role enabled for everyone is the learner role. Learners can access all of our content, and one way to do that is through the Courses page. Once a user has selected a course, they're presented with information about that course, their progress on that course, as well as all of the modules within that course. Now within each module are a series of lessons, and within the lessons are educational standards that are covered, as well as content within each lesson. Now we have multiple different types of content, including articles, as well as quiz questions. Now within the quizzes, there are multiple types of questions, including radio, multi-select, matching, writing questions, and once they're done, they can view their results, see the correct answers, and get feedback on how they can improve. Now some lessons have a special feature that link to some tools that we've created. One such tool is a compound interest calculator that allows users to play with different variables and see the results in an animated bar graph. Parents are able to track their child's progress using our dashboard. They can view recent activity and course completion, just as learners are able to view the same statistics on the learner dashboard. Now one thing that teachers can do is assign lessons or activities. Once they've selected a class, they can then edit that assignment and manage details like settings, availability, due dates, activities, and for finished assignments, check out analytics and grading for individual submissions. Now, interestingly, for the entire class, they're able to access a variety of features like assignments, analytics for the course as a whole, as well as gradebook for each individual students. They can invite students and manage the class's setting. Thanks for watching. Visit financeedu.org for more. Yeah, so I hope that that was a helpful preview of what the app can do. So if you're interested in learning more, if you're an individual who's like to take the course, including adults, because I mean, it's never too late to learn more about finance. I'm always learning new stuff myself. Thank you. Or you're a teacher, either personal finance and economics, and you'd like to pilot this course in your platform, you can just go ahead and reach out to me through financeedu.org. That's spelled like financeu.org. But on that note, I'd also like to extend one special thanks for Mr. Schiff for helping me pilot this course at Dos Pueblos this spring. So that's all I have for today, but thank you so much once again for having me today.
Thank you, Emma. So I do want to say that you shortened the video and you didn't show all the software programming and the language. Can you say a little bit about the computer language coding you use to develop the app?
Sure. So regarding the programming language, it involved, first I had a front end, so that's the stuff that you see on a website, like buttons or user interface. I used with the help of a platform called Wix. Some of you might be familiar with it. But underneath the hood, we used a bunch of databases and JavaScript to sort of make sure that it functions when like a user submits content, or and it can save their content for later. And then we also had to use some JavaScript and other sort of programming fixes in order to make sure that the security was handled appropriately, that students submit the right assignment, like it doesn't look like one student submitted an assignment who didn't, as well as that our students' data is kept private and safe. But that's just a preview of, I guess, what I did coding-wise, but if you're interested in more, again, feel free to reach out to me through the website.
Thank you for that explanation. So we're very proud of Iman, and we're going to be looking to raise money to help him travel to Washington, D.C. to be honored for this accomplishment at the U.S. Capitol. So I'll send out information on that and look for some local funders who may help me raise money to send you and your father, perhaps, who's here with him too. I want to thank his father. His mom was with him last week also. And this is the 4th time an SB Unified student has won the Congressional App Challenge. So congratulations, and thank you for being here. Next, we have had some, I do want to report to the board, we have had some field trips to junior high schools. They've been hosting visits from their feeder schools over the past month. We have 4 elementary districts that feed into Santa Barbara Unified, as you may know, along with some charter schools. Goleta Valley hosted Goleta Union students. La Colina hosted Hope along with Goleta Union. Santa Barbara Junior had several SB Unified schools and also welcomed Montecito and Cold Spring students. La Cumbre had students from only Santa Barbara Unified schools because of its location. And we look forward to welcoming more of these elementary students to junior high school. Later, you'll see in the board agenda too, we're going to be asking you to take action on the agreement that we came to with SPTA on class size. We're very pleased to enter this agreement, Memorandum of Understanding Agreement with SPTA, as we aim to improve student outcomes and achievement. We know that a smaller class size allows teachers to personalize instruction to meet the students where they're at and ensure that the rigor and excellence is not compromised. We believe this is a sign of building good relations and good faith bargaining from both parties. What happens in the classroom is the center of the work, and ensuring success for students and teachers and support personnel will remain our focus. So we're very pleased to bring you that item. And we will end with our Every Child Award. We will start with Graciela Vega from McKinley Elementary School. She was nominated as being the true spirit of McKinley, whether she's supporting a student or family in need, giving staff mental health tips, providing words of encouragement, or making us smile with her passion for art and self-expression. She does it with grace and compassion. Thank you, Graciela. Also, from Cleveland Elementary, we have Principal Gabriel Sandoval. Mr. Sandoval reminds students how special they are every day while walking down the hallway with a huge smile and or a thumbs up. It's true, I've never seen him without a huge smile. You'll always see him in classrooms kneeling next to students and helping them with their work. He spends recess out with students where he is creating special bonds with individual students. From Harding University Partnership School, we have Abraham Ochoa Solis. Abe voluntarily supported classrooms during the pandemic, and now he's a TK paraeducator. Let me read this again. Start again, Hilda. Abe voluntarily supported classrooms during the pandemic, and now he's a TK paraeducator, joyfully caring for our smallest students. Reading matters. He is also on track to earn his teaching credential, and no one could ever wish for a more honest, dedicated, and intrinsically child-centered teacher. So thank you to Abraham for being so great with us. And the last one for today is our facilities team. So you can see the whole team is there. They came out to the sites in the pouring rain and took control of the flooded areas in December. This dedicated team prevented even bigger disasters from happening with their quick and thorough response. We are all so very grateful to them for their support of every child in our district. Please join me in thanking the facilities team. Board members, that concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. We will need board comments, and we have several speakers. Do we want to delay our comments till after public comment? Board members, are you good for that? Okay, we'll go direct to that. Okay. So we'll go to public comment. Mr. Escobedo.
All right. This is public comment for items that are not on the agenda today. As a reminder, folks will have 90 seconds. What I'll do is I'll name a few speakers, so if you could queue up in anticipation for your turn. I'm going to start with Rogue Lindsay, followed by Joel Block, followed by Rich Lashua. Rogue Lindsay.
Hi again.
Welcome. Can you press the button? We'll restart the time. Is the mic on? Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi again. Crazy to be here again with, last I heard, no developments with negotiation. I could be wrong, but last I heard. But on my way here, I saw a sign that said teachers needed great benefits on a bus, and it was a little silly because I mean, I'm sure SB Unified has great benefits, but it's like, what's the benefits if they're not getting paid well enough to live here in the first place, right? And I think I'm getting redundant now because it's the same thing over and over again, and there's just like, with no new development, it's like, what else can I say? Pay the teachers well, or it's just, yeah, we're gonna start losing some amazing teachers, and we already have, and
Thank you. Joel Block, followed by Rich Lashua. Welcome.
It's an age thing. Good evening. My name is Joel Block, and I am the Santa Barbara Teachers Association representative to the State Council of the California Teachers Association, among my other duties. Just this weekend, I attended the State Council, and there I shared stories about what is happening here between SBTA and the district, including that we are at declared impasse. When I shared what our salaries are compared to the local cost of living, what I pay in health care, and the district's stances in regard to our negotiations, I immediately received multiple offers of assistance from the president to the basic representative, and they were appalled by what they heard. What bothers me most about what we're going through is what appears to be the unbelievable arrogance and the incredible disdain the district has for teachers and the families of our students. When you sent out parent squares about the state of negotiation, parents and teachers were angry that you used that vehicle to propagandize your side of the arguments. We are not stupid. Parents are not stupid. But you treat us as if we're ignorant. When you state that you made comparisons with other districts' teachers' salary and the offer made us the highest paid, you neglected to mention the difference in cost of living in those places. You compared us with Oxnard, Lompoc, and Paso Robles, where the cost of living in each of those places is between 20 to 30% lower. Until you, the district, and the board are willing to be honest and open with all stakeholders instead of skewing the facts, open conflict will
Thank you,
remain.
Mr. Block.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rich Lashua, followed by Christina Manilai, followed by Linda Vining. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you for your patient, attentive listening. I'm glad you mentioned universal access in our classrooms. I applaud the district's acknowledgement that placing supports in every classroom every day is the way to ensure the most success for all of our students. Did you know that performing arts classes have been providing universal access before it was cool? Santa Barbara Junior High had a deaf student in our band's drumline last year, but that didn't make many headlines. He wasn't the first hard of hearing student learning music that I've had in my career either. I've had English learners speaking Shakespeare to perfection on stage. Students struggling with dyslexia improve their reading and language comprehension when they're enrolled in music classes. And some kids just gotta dance. Arts education allows all our students to shine, but for a certain cross-section of our population, it reminds them that their value as a human being and self-perception of their own intelligence is not dependent on clicking the right buttons on a standardized test. Oh, and project-based learning, performing arts invented that too, centuries ago when we came up with symphonies, choirs, theater troupes, and dance companies.
20 seconds.
Sadly, we've designed a system of teachers highly qualified to implement universal access, but prevented students from taking their classes. The district can save a lot of time and money if it avoids educational fads attempting to heal what went missing when they cut the arts. You did not make those cuts, but you can fix it.
Thank you.
Many of the experts you need are already in the classroom at a fraction of the cost for an outside consultant. Please restore the 7-period day at the junior high level in compliance with California Ed Code that you are in violation of to ensure that every child has every chance every day to have access to visual and performing arts classes.
Thank you. Christina Manilai, and I know I got your name wrong last time. I appreciate the spelling. Thank you. Welcome.
So I'm not even an arts teacher, and I wrote this morning on my walk to work. Impasse, I'll pass. Every child, every chance, every day, no way. You can't even afford to give teachers fair pay. The youth are speaking up because you won't listen to adults. Instead, you continue to make decisions that assault. Now, the community knows you can't keep budgets on track. Millions of dollars off, yeah, that's pretty whack. Claiming you need these reserves on deck, yet you got educators living paycheck to paycheck. Teachers commuting 2 hours on the daily, sometimes even one way. I send them a Hail Mary. My friends that are commuters, I'm sorry for y'all truly. You give so much energy, though the kids and admin are incredibly unruly. Our people deserve to spend time with their families, not huddled up in cars or hunched over in traffic. You're showing us that you won't be empathetic. Even for us who are single, no kids, can't afford rent and mental health services. My anxiety is bubbling, got no money to fix it. Got one friend who commutes, and for $1,200 his studio got no kitchen. Only eating fast food leads to severe indigestion that would cause anyone clinical depression. We teachers work hard to give kids what they deserve, attentiveness, enrichment, a safe place to learn. We can't do all that without living in these communities that we serve. Tomorrow my kids will tell me they saw me on TV. Hopefully they hear about our reality. And frankly, if I'm gone in a year or two, they'll understand it's something that I had to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Lindsay Vining, followed by Carla Hernandez. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Good evening. I had a whole thing prepared, but then I heard the MTSS stuff, and I was like, oh, got to speak to the MTSS stuff because I know this pretty well. So it is true. You do want 10 to 15% in that tier 2, and I teach the students who are in the tier 2, so I see them every day. What makes the biggest impact on MTSS? Guess what? It's the teachers. It's not the teachers who are driving an hour and a half each way to school who barely have the energy to serve their students. It's not the teachers who can't afford to eat properly. It's not the teachers who can't fulfill their own needs. It's the teachers who have it within themselves to be able to give everything they have to their students. That's going to make the biggest impact on your tier 1. It's the teachers. And treating the teachers as they've been treated is not going to give you the results that you're looking for. I'm just being completely honest with you. Universal access is great. I support it. I'm a math teacher. I'll give it all that I've got. But you're not going to get the results that you want treating the teachers how they're treated now. With the long commutes, the difficulty supporting their family, the difficulty getting the nutrition that they need, no mental health services, and poor medical care, they're not going to be able to give all that they can for their students. And so I'm begging you, I'm telling you, if you want these results, which you certainly can get, you need to support your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carla Hernandez, followed by Bettina Chin, followed by Kim Barron. Welcome.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm really enjoying these, actually. So anyhow, here I am again, and I am a proud parent of some amazing children who have had amazing teachers who have helped them learn and achieve much more than I could ever have imagined. And I just can't wait to see what the future holds for them. As a parent, I do get those lovely parent squares from the district and information, and I have some feedback on them. So the first one is the negotiations update. Sorry, tongue twister. I was really excited when I read the phrase, we're going to try something new. We're going to try something new. I was like, oh, wow. Like, let me keep reading, right? And then it turned out it wasn't anything new. It was like, let's, just do the same thing we've always done and try to get negotiating down. And I thought something new and innovative would be for like the team to come back and be like, you know what, you only asked for 23%. How about we give you 30 or something crazy like that? I don't know, but I know, crazy, that's me, but that would be innovative. That'd be something new. That'd be something that we've never seen before. The other thing, I was really appreciative of the recent Parent Square and the newsletter, Did You Know? Or Do You Know? And I have a question about that. So I love a good chart, but I had a question about that 83% of the unrestricted funds that are supposed to be going to salaries. And my question is, if you could just maybe give us a little bit more information as a parent, I'd love to know how much of that is for like para-educators and support staff, how much of that is for teachers, which are, anyhow, you know about teachers, and how much of that goes to administrative staff. That would really be wonderful. So if you could like break that down a little further, love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bettina Chin, followed by Kim Barron. Welcome.
Thank you. Dear School Board, as the mom of a struggling 5th grade student in math, I'm speaking to you today as a 30-year experienced teacher in regards to our adopted math curriculum for the elementary school's illustrative math, especially in relation to our recently released low math scores, 45 who met or exceeded standards in 2019, compared to 36% last year for the state standardized test. As an experienced 5th grade teacher, my class participated in the Alpha and Beta pilot. Both years, teachers expressed great concern during our regular math meetings with the lack of practice problems, the fast pace, and the order of skills. Everyone subsidized IM with other math curriculum. Some schools completely dropped out of the pilot and went back to tried and true curriculum. The following year, I returned to school to find out that the school board had officially adopted IM despite significant teacher concern. This decision was a complete surprise to my fellow teachers and me. With a little bit of research, I discovered that the district mathematics instruction support specialist also works for illustrative math as an IM certified facilitator. He is available to support teachers outside of this district with co-planning and co-teaching while continuing to work for the district. This appears to be a grave conflict of interest. When Hilda Maldonado walked around on her listening to her, I expressed my concern about the math program, which lacks in substance, being recommended by a person who works for both entities. She assured me that it was not against the law and also before her time, so she couldn't do anything about it. I implore the board that now is your time. Please put the children first, reset the current math trajectory, and provide the elementary schools a robust and rigorous math program that can be taught with fidelity throughout the district, one which will give all learners the opportunity to master math. Thank you.
We have Kim Barron, followed by Kate S., followed by Kelly Mendesh. Welcome.
Good evening. Prior to the school board of the last few years, I was under the impression that the school board was independent from the district it is serving. After all, you are elected by the public to be a steward of the money and to make decisions about hiring the superintendent and the direction of the district. However, it is abundantly clear to everyone that this has not been the case the last 3 years. Requests by the superintendent have been approved seemingly without question. The hiring of a COO, the recent waiver debacle, the still unexplained travel budget, the absurd amount spent on consultants, the extra assistant superintendents of this, that, and the other, the outrageous salaries that are being paid to the people sitting at the tables in this room who are the farthest removed from the classroom. The same people who cannot explain the budget clearly. What was put out last night on Parent Square needs to be rechecked. You claim to be spending 83% on all salaries and benefits. However, when looking at the numbers given, it's actually 78%. The math is wrong. Your post said $20.3 million is in unrestricted reserves, which leaves the district with 13.93% saved in the reserves. But if you look at that chart in the same Parent Square post, it shows it as 7.96%. So which is it? Clearly, one of these numbers is wrong. These are only a few examples of the errors in your explanation given to the public. It's highly confusing and leaves us to wonder if this is done on purpose, as gaslighting, or as more sloppy work.
Thank you.
When are you going to direct the administration to address these issues? Separate yourself from the administration, do the job you were elected to do. Stop using your rubber stamp on everything they ask of you. Thank you.
Kate S., followed by Kelly Mendesh. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a parent, and professionally, I'm a servant leader at a high-performing engineering team. And I do empathize with all of you. The last time that I was here, I was thinking about what it must feel like to be sitting in your chairs. I know I couldn't listen openly and receptively while being attacked. And so I'm imploring you to stop and re-listen to these videos afterwards with a little bit of distance. I want this group to have a growth mindset and to think about the long-term repercussions on our community of the communication that's happening, especially what I'm seeing in Parent Square. Our teachers are not approaching the parents about this at school. They're being appropriate. They're following the rules. But I'm getting Parent Square updates that other parents have described as creepy. It feels like propaganda, and the power dynamics are very uncomfortable. The teachers are restricted from speaking, but the administration uses this tool to speak directly to the parents without context.
20 seconds.
I've been reading the newspaper, and our local reporters have been doing an excellent job providing context and providing a wide view. Let's rely on our journalists to communicate these things. When I read from the Parent Square and in the Independent that the district said that it was in a position of negotiating against itself, I was so deeply disturbed because from listening to the teachers, I think they are negotiating in good faith. I think they are truly telling you, I can't keep doing this. I cannot accept less than this, or I have to leave.
Thank you.
Please listen open-mindedly and think about what this relationship is going to be over the next 15 and 20 years before you release this information that is so detrimental to trust.
Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kelly Mendesh, followed by Deborah Reed, followed by Sean O'Brien. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. That was such a hard act to follow, but I'm going to do my best. My name is Kelly Mendesh, and I've been teaching preschool in the district for 27 years. There have been a lot of changes in early education over the last 3 decades. We expect so much more of our young students now than we did when I started, and so much more of it is expected of early ed teachers. But there are 2 mandates from the state that have been in place my entire career. One is twice yearly conferences, for which we are given no extra time, and the other is that teachers need to meet with every single family before their child starts with us. For context, we can have up to 16 students enrolled in both the AM and PM sessions. That's a lot of families to meet with. So there's the conferences and there's the orientations. I would like to focus on the orientations tonight. In the 3 contract days that we have before school starts in August, we have to squeeze in all of those orientations between the district kickoff, professional development, all the staff meetings, and all of our classroom prep. We have gotten creative with how to do it, but the bottom line is there just isn't time to fit it all in. So we come in over the summer or on weekends to get our environment ready for the students so that we can free up time to do our orientations. This unpaid labor has been going on for as long as I have been employed
20
here,
seconds.
and I often feel burnt out by the time school starts. But finally, after all this time, the union has agreed to negotiate with the district to add days to our early ed contract. We are already doing the work of those extra days. We just ask that you do the right thing, add those days to our contract, and compensate us fairly for our time. This has gone on long enough. Please meet with the state mediator as soon as possible to move the needle forward on negotiations.
Thank you. Next, we have Deborah Reed, followed by Sean O'Brien. Deborah Reed. Welcome.
I had a prepared statement. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me read things, so I thought I would just share something with you. I wanted to share the positives of what's been going on with the district. During term 1 at Santa Barbara High, where I teach, in the classroom next to me, there was no Spanish teacher because my colleague left the position to stay in Oxnard, where she'd been commuting from. She was fortunate enough to find a job that was close to her home. Because we had no Spanish teacher, we had a gentleman who was a very well-meaning individual who sat in a room with 30 children on laptops, iPads, excuse me. The students were supposed to learn Spanish this way. The bright spot of this is that I got to meet many of those students because they ended up in my classroom because they were bored, because they felt unseen and unheard. And they would come to my classroom wanting someone to talk to, wanting someone to explain to these freshmen why this was their introduction to high school. After that teacher left after a term, those students were replaced, had a teacher replaced. She lasted 2 days. Again, during term 2, those students came to my room and said, why are we not worth it? Why did this person come for 1 day, pack her refrigerator, and leave? We are now, there was another teacher who came after that. He was there for a while, and now we are in term 3. We now have city college staff who are on our campus teaching 3 days a week. The other 2 days, there is no one for those children to be with. The bright spot in all this is that I have made great relationships with students. I had a student who had that class. He texted me at the beginning of this term asking me, can you help me find my schedule? Because I don't know who else to ask. So thank you for having a deficit of teachers, because it has allowed me to meet and learn and build relationships with many students who I otherwise would not have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Sean O'Brien, followed by Florette Jenigan, followed by Hoseby Galindo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sean O'Brien. I am a parent of a Harding Hawk and an educator myself. Go Hawks. So studies from McKinsey, Rand Corp, and Sage Publishing make it clear. Salaries attract teachers, but it's culture that keeps them ultimately. And our current crisis, it's not one of pay, it's one of culture in the wake of our process to get fair pay. And here we truly stand at a crossroads because we are moving towards a solution for pay, but in the process, I don't see what's being done to mend the cultural problem that's been created in its wake. And that's going to be a much harder one to solve. This aligns with the undeniable message from leading research. A positive culture is key to retaining our teachers. Our mission, which stares at us, I think it would be good to have over there too, says, we prepare our students for a world that is yet to be created. However, you're going to need excellent teachers to do that. You're going to need excellent teachers to get them where you wanted to get them in your MTSS plan. However, we need to solve the pay. That's going to take a while. You can start working on the culture problem today on the ground. It starts with simple interactions, and I beg of you, start working on that one now, because that one's going to have a long tail. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. The Did You Know series on the district's budget and reserves came last night via Parent Square. It explains that the board has directed the district to keep a 10% reserve. The state only requires 3%. We have $33 million in reserves. Can't we find some stipend money for teachers in this? Page 6 of the budget presentation made in December shows the majority of our district's funding comes from property tax revenue, just over $167 million. Our city administrator's budget message for the year states that property tax growth is good due to strong sales, bringing revenues up. The district presented to the board that the property tax revenue actually went from 5.25% to 5.64%. The district can have a rainy day fund to prepare for shortfalls, but there is no catastrophe on the horizon to justify the need for $33 million in reserves. On the contrary, when a catastrophe has happened, such as COVID, we have seen the federal government step in with immense funding, which is why the CEA waiver is an issue. The board and district should consider that the reserves do not have to be at this extraordinary level. $33 million is quite a big cushion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hoseby Galindo, followed by Finnegan Wright, followed by Kate Lambert. Is Hoseby back there? Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Trust and relationships are paramount in any partnership. Let's talk about the current situation and impasse. We would love to trust that we're on the same page when it comes to solving the situation that our students are facing, that being that teachers are leaving 100 each year. By prolonging negotiations and going into impasse, you will not create a competitive salary schedule necessary for this hiring cycle. This means that our union members may leave for something better, or you will not attract the people necessary to fill the positions next year. Our trust is strained further by the fact that your team chose the furthest date available that was offered by the state mediator. You have put negotiations on hold for over a month. Relationships. We are building relationships on a daily basis with our students and our community. We have been reaching out to our local businesses and asking them to support us and be partners in our fight to provide our students a quality education. To all those businesses, over 130, we thank you for your support.
20 seconds.
We are here today to recognize you and let the community know how amazing you are and who you are. We are grateful to you. You can all go to mysbta.org for more information on all the businesses that are supporting educators and students. School board, it's time for you to partner with us, just like our local businesses, for the benefit of our students. We have a packet for you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Finnegan Wright, followed by Kate Lambert. Welcome.
Hello. You're right. All right, there we go. I'm tall, I have to work with this a little bit. My name is Finnegan Wright. I've been here for a few weeks now, so you guys probably recognize me. I'm tired. I know that a lot of the people who came with me today, students are also tired. I know that a lot of the teachers are tired. I have some friends who've come here in previous weeks who are at home doing homework, sick, resting. I know that one of my teachers is home grading, you know. Education is a very tiring field, and a lot of that is stuff that the district doesn't really have control over. But what the district does have control over is whether or not we have to exhaust ourselves every 2 weeks coming here to tell them to do the right thing. So, I mean, you watch us come up here, and you get to see us pleading for you to just pay the teachers more, and every single time it seems to fall on deaf ears. The union and the district recently reached an impasse, and in my history class today with the esteemed Adam Scheid, who's in the other room, we talked about conflict and war, which, sorry, big shift. But one thing we discussed is how conflicts end. And either they end with one side being defeated, which I don't want the district to be defeated, I don't want the teachers to be defeated. We don't want that, right? The other way they end is by someone putting their foot down and making the concessions that they need to make. The teachers can't make any concessions. They're fighting for their livelihood. The district is the only people in the position to make the concessions necessary for this conflict to end. So the ball's in your court, do the right thing.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. So do one more. I already called her. Can we do her? Yeah. So next we have Kate Lambert. We do have some time certain items at 7 o'clock that should be fairly quick, but Miss Lambert.
Thank you.
Welcome.
SBTA is ready to mediate now. Why is the district waiting a month? How is that what's best for the students? On January 19th, SBUSD and SBTA declared impasse in their negotiations for this upcoming school year and asked the state to appoint a mediator. The mediator has been appointed and has offered 3 dates, 2 in February and 1 in March. SBTA is available for all of those dates. SBUSD would only make itself available in March. That puts us at a month behind. How is more than a month delay good for students? How is more than a month delay going to help you attract candidates during this hiring cycle? Are you surely going to have to fill more than 100 spots again? We keep hearing you say students are #1 priority. We want to see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we will move to our time certain items, and once those are done, we will come back to public comment.
Yes, we're actually moving to a public hearing to hear items F1. Dr. Vecchio.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, board members, Superintendent Maldonado. I wanted to start, we do have 4 items on the public hearing, and I just wanted to make sure the board's aware and the public's aware that the public hearing is a time spot on the agenda whereby an item is opened as a public hearing, which is an opportunity for the public to come and express their input or give their opinion to the board about that item prior to some subsequent action that might take place on that item. So I just wanted to kind of mention what public hearing is for. We are opening this public hearing for the first item, which is the second reading of the Sunshine Articles for Santa Barbara Unified School District's proposal for successor contract negotiations with CSEA. This was brought to you last time for the first reading. This is our public hearing, and then later you'll consider it on action. So this is time for public hearing.
Do you have any requests to speak on this item? Okay. No request to speak virtually? Okay. Hearing none and seeing none, we can move to...
Okay. The second item is the Sunshine proposal for contract negotiations. This is from California School Employees Association, Chapter 37, and their proposal for negotiations with Santa Barbara Unified. And again, this was brought to the board for the first reading last time, public hearing now, and you'll consider it for action later in the agenda.
Any requests to speak?
Two.
We have 2 requests to speak on this item.
First up, we have Peggy Ochoa, followed by Ken Rivas. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Peggy Ochoa. I haven't been to one of these in a long time, so I'm here to take up some space. I am the newly appointed vice president of our Classified Employees Union. And I wanted to point out that I've had students address that they've participated in the walkouts in support for me to get a higher wage. So I've had to clarify those walkouts are meant to support their teachers, which is great. Thank you. But I am a classified employee. So I needed to clear that up with a lot of the students that I used to work with. So I am here in support of a successful negotiation for California School Employees Association, which includes the following employees: secretaries, custodians, food service workers, gardeners, groundspeople, nurses, trainers, librarians, theater techs, therapists, clerical workers, accountants, family liaisons, youth outreach workers, campus safety assistants, electricians, carpenters, mechanics, painters, operators, locksmiths, maintenance workers, program coordinators, early childhood and after-school program leaders, videographers, editors, ETS technicians, support specialists, programmers, warehouse workers, intervention specialists, interpreters, translators, para-educators, and last but not least, the ones I hold near and dear to my heart, playground supervisors, because 10 years ago, I started in the district as a playground supervisor, and I am now the lead family engagement liaison for the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to share this.
Ken Rivas, welcome.
Hello, my name is Ken Rivas. I'm the president for the California School Employees Association, Chapter 37. I'm just up here today to say that we really support and look forward to a negotiations, and it seems like we're kind of late to the dance, but when you take in perspective that we have 17 job families with 145 job classifications, that's a lot to consider and a lot to work out before we even get to the table with you folks. And so, but we are really looking forward to that. So we in support of moving forward and getting to the table. So thank you for all your hard work in the coming.
Thank you.
So I will now close the hearing for the second reading of the sunshining of the both Santa Barbara Unified and CSCA. So now we'll go to item F3 as part of the public hearing on the Santa Barbara Unified District entering into an energy service contract with Horizon Mechanical. Mr.
Good evening, President Sims-Moten, Superintendent, board members. The next two board hearings are specifically tied to energy savings contracts that you'll be voting on. It's designed under the Government Code 4217.12. We know that specifically that we have to give a 2 weeks notice publicly to let the public know that we're going to do a hearing on this subject. It's designed specifically to expedite the process so we could start moving with this project. So with any findings or any information that might come up in the hearing, that's taken into consideration at this time. So, and F3 is specifically addressing the contract with Horizon Mechanical Incorporated, which will be voted in action.
Thank you. Do you have any requests to speak on this item? Hearing none, so we have closed it on that item. We close the hearing, we can move to the next one, which is F4.
And the fourth hearing item is specifically for EMCOR Mesa Energy Building Management Systems upgrade. And again, this will be another item that will be voted on as an action item.
Okay, any requests to speak on this item? Hearing none. Okay, so we've heard that open it, and we'll hear it later in action. So thank you for that. And now we'll close the public hearing on items 3 and 4.
Thank you.
To officially do that. Now we will resume public comment.
Okay, so we're going back to open public comment for items not on today's agenda. We will start with Stephen Hughes, followed by Spencer Barr, followed by Mara DeGilio. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Stephen Hughes. I'm the music teacher at La Colina Junior High. I'm here addressing the district strategic arts plan that was approved December 13th of last year. And I wanted to address Goal 3, equity and access. To illustrate, a quick story. I was cold emailed about 2 weeks ago by someone interested in the school music programs, and she's someone who sat on a board, like all of you. And she said, do you find the state music standards to be a hindrance or a help in your work? I nearly laughed her out of the room. We are nowhere near state standards. And again, to illustrate another point, at Santa Barbara High School, the marching band converted to concert band just yesterday. And looking around, the director, very smartly I think, picked a couple drummers and said, congrats, you're a trombone section. They didn't have any trombones. Why didn't they have any trombones? Well, no 7th graders could get into the classes at Santa Barbara Junior High. No one could make it through who knew how to play that instrument. The band wasn't going to work. And so the structure of the system we currently have isn't allowing students to make it through who want to, right? And everything the director at Santa Barbara High achieves later this year with that group is going to be in spite of those restrictions, right? And I hate to say it, but I stood in front of this board probably 2 months ago, and I said basically that 9th graders were learning hot cross buns at Santa Barbara Junior High in 9th grade. That isn't state standards. That's 4th grade. I said it, it happened. Thank you.
Next, Spencer Barr, followed by Mara DeGilio. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Spencer Barr, and I'm a proud product of Santa Barbara Unified, attending from kindergarten to graduating from Santa Barbara High. Now in my 24th year with the district and 12th as college and career counselor, I hope to continue this role next year and beyond. We have a funding problem, though. My position, as well as my college and career counselor colleagues at the other high schools, have been grant funded since 2021, and we'll lose that funding at the end of the year. Despite multiple assurances over the last couple of years that these positions would be written into the district LCAP, this is yet to happen. In comparison to traditional school counselors who support students with all 3 areas of academic, social, emotional, and college and career, our college and career counselors are solely focused on college and career. With the constantly changing landscape of college admissions, financial aid, Santa Barbara City College, and post-secondary as a whole, the college and career counselors are well positioned to focus our efforts on supporting students and families with these changes. If these positions are not funded, all of our work will fall to our school counselors, several of whom are also one-time funded. This is not fair to them and not fair to our students and families. Higher income families will always have the chance to hire private college and career counselors for thousands of dollars. Our college and career counselors have been called the great equalizers, providing these kinds of services to all students regardless of income. In order to give every child every chance to access the same college and career advising, I urge you to make our positions permanent and not reliant on one-time funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mara DeGilio. Welcome. Is that, oh, sorry to interrupt. If you could press the button and a green light should turn on.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mara DeGilio. I'm in 5th grade at Monroe Elementary School. Nobody told me to come tonight, I just came on my own. I came to support the best teachers in the world. I see how hard each and every teacher works during and after school to make learning fun and for each student to feel special in their own way. And we have also lost some really great teachers because they can't afford to live in Santa Barbara. I would hate to lose more excellent teachers I would hate to lose more excellent teachers at Monroe. They tell us to take charge. C, compassion. H, health. A, achievement. R, respect. G, gratitude. And E, for effort. So I encourage you to take charge for our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mara. Next, we have Kaiser Whitney, followed by Charles Ortega, followed by York Shingle. Kaiser Whitney? He's coming. Okay. Take your time. Welcome.
Howdy. I was a sub for this district for 2 years, so I just want to share a quick story for you guys to why I'm actually not going to pursue my teaching credential or work for Santa Barbara Unified. And it's mostly because I watched my coworkers suffer. I was a long-term sub at 4 different schools, and the most recent one was an elementary school, and it was well-funded. It was well-supported by parents and families, and it was still a struggle to work there. I can't tell my friend's story for them, but I can tell you what I saw, and from my perspective, why it isn't a worthwhile investment to become a teacher for you folks. My friend they were in third grade teacher, and they got involuntarily moved to first grade after 10 years of teaching third grade. Then halfway through the year, one of the first grade teachers up and left halfway through the year because they couldn't hang anymore. Then another first grade teacher actually got pregnant halfway through the year, and I came in to substitute teach for that teacher. My first grade friend who had never taught, my first grade teacher friend who had never taught first grade before was now the lead teacher over 2 long-term subs, and it was just chaos. We felt no support from the district, no support from admin, and it was just a real struggle. And when we told and complained about the struggle, they're like, hey, this is just what education is. If you guys don't like it, then don't work here. So that's my story. Again, I can't tell my friend's story for them, but yeah, they're not in the district anymore, and neither am I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Charles Ortega, followed by York Shingle. Welcome.
Let's go. Oh, there goes. Hi, my name's Charlie Ortega, and I've been a music teacher here in Santa Barbara for almost 25 years. Started at Santa Barbara High School, and I'm currently at La Cumbra. And I just want to, I guess, bring some perspective, maybe some to the lack of institutional memory, because we have so many new people. And when I first came to Santa Barbara, things were a little different. You know, when I started Santa Barbara High School, we had thriving secondary marching band programs. We had successful secondary junior high programs, which are now there's not a single 100% full-time music teacher at any of those schools. I have a feeder program that hasn't had a music teacher this entire year. The teacher was actually there for 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year, but she left for a better paying job. And the job is still vacant to this day. Those kids have been coming to me at La Cumbra to support their music learning. But now they're being pulled out for tutoring after school. So now the kids at that school have no chance of music on a daily basis. And it's just very disappointing to watch. We work very hard for you. We have very high expectations, and it does not feel like it's being reciprocated. So please, listen to the people that have been talking tonight and take what they're saying to heart, and don't let the programs be diminished any further, because what we've lost, we may not get back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have York Shingle, followed by Roberta Ortega, followed by Sky Beard Armbruster. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm York Shingle of the Meta ISS. It's me again. Please pay us more. Thank you to Kate S. for the support. It means a lot. Thank you to all the parents and businesses out here supporting us. Hopefully soon our district will start listening to you. I'm just here to let you know that since I last spoke to you, I have been stopped in the grocery store, farmer's market, and gym by teachers thanking me for speaking out because they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe speaking out. And I just want to make sure that our board knows that. Thank you.
Thank you. Roberta Ortega. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I've been in the district for almost 30 years, and I can honestly say this is the most out of touch we've ever been from the administration and the school board. We used to have committees with district administrators who would work side by side with the teachers, and they made it a point to get to know who the teachers are and what they're doing in the classrooms. Board members used to visit our schools and see what was going on in the classrooms. It's a very different situation now. To me, it's really incredible that we have to come here week after week to tell you how expensive it is to live here, how expensive it's gotten to commute from other places that's less expensive to live, and how teachers love what they do in the classroom, but it's becoming unsustainable. You keep hearing it week after week. I feel like you should care about this. The community does. I don't understand why the administration doesn't. And as I talk to new teachers, I'm a union rep also, I talk to new teachers about maybe starting to save for retirement or moving over on the salary schedule. And more teachers that I talk to say they don't see themselves teaching for more than 3 or 4 years or staying in this district for more than that time, either because we don't have competitive salaries, and then that investing that Dr. Maldonado was doing in OG Orton Gillingham training, the letters training, all that money is going to be invested in teachers that are going to move away and take those skills elsewhere, either to better paying districts or to better paying careers. Thank you. Please listen to your teachers.
Thank you. Skybeard Armbruster, followed by Moni DeWitt. Welcome.
Hello. God, I love my teachers. I really couldn't do this without them. I really couldn't. Now, I pose the question to you all fundamentally, what is a school? Is it the buildings, tables, tablets? Is it you all in the mission statement you so claim to worship? No. Even if all the schools were to be leveled to the ground tomorrow, the relationship between the teachers and the students would remain. For it is the student-teacher relationship which is the school. Now, if you really want to help the students, I suggest you do your damnness to help the student-teacher relationship. Now, I know what doesn't help this relationship. What doesn't help is the $1 million travel budget. What doesn't help is the excessive spending on consultants. What doesn't help is the absurdly high salaries of district admin. Now, I might just be one person, but there are thousands of other junior high and high school students who share in my voice. Do not tempt the student body into doing what they don't want to do. Pay our teachers not just what they deserve, but what is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Moni DeWitt. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Board Member Escobedo and the rest of the board, Superintendent. Yeah, so this has been going on very long, and I too worry very much for our most vulnerable students, like the wonderful articulate student who just left and our creative teacher and the other student from Monroe. You're certainly getting the message. Now I think part of the problem is the community should be let in on this budget. We got vast amounts of COVID money, and I'd like to know where it went. I'd love to know where LCAP goes. I've asked 2 FOIA reports for 2 years in a row, and the attorneys just trickle it in. But that's the funding that pays for our most vulnerable students. And, you know, it's not, stakeholders aren't welcome there. And frankly, a vulnerable student that I was helping last October who self-diagnosed himself as dyslexic, a 5th grader who can't even read at all, and the superintendent and the highest levels of special ed were at several IEP meetings, and the parents were told they didn't read to the kid enough. Wasn't the truth, because dyslexia is, yes, and they were giving mediocre, because you smirk, but it's true, so anyway, they were giving mediocre help. Not the kind of help that a self-diagnosed 5th grader should get. I talked to the parents, tried to get them to come here, but they don't want anything to do with it. They're traumatized. They cried at the IEP. And the little boy who's self-diagnosed, you know what he's worried about? His friend. A friend in his class can't read either. And nobody's helping the friend right now, you know? And it's scary to help kids in this district because you get a lot of attitude and they don't really care about the special ed kids and the vulnerable kids who are going to, you know, the lowest illiteracy rates are incarceration. So get the big picture. We've got 60% that can't read. We had a 9th grade special ed teacher tell you that only 6 students in his 18 years of special ed in the 9th grade could read. So
you, Mr.
please
Witt.
share the budget because we need to help you help the rest of us. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Escobedo. So board members, we can either go to board comment now or we can go to consent agenda approval and go to action. What is your will?
Can we take a little break?
Yes, we can, as the boardroom is clearing out, we can take about a 10-minute break. Attention in the boardroom. I want to call us back to order. Thank you. Okay. We move back to item 8 for board comments and correspondent. Board members, any comments or questions? Ms. Sunita?
I would like to make a comment as the newest board member, and I've been on the other side of this desk. I just want to make a statement about the emotion of the situation. This is such an emotional time during public comment, and I do remember during COVID a similar set of emotions, and tonight I'm hearing anger, frustration, celebration with this young man who's so talented, and public comment is an emotional thing. And as a board, we are listening. We are limited in our response in public. We are listening, we are discussing, we are trying to figure out how to navigate just the actual money of the situation along with the emotion. One of the things that I would like to comment is we are a community and a school is a home. And I feel the emotion of people feeling that their home is being threatened. The larger conversation in the community, if you listen to the housing boards, is that it is a difficult thing to make a home in Santa Barbara. Some of the comments I hear are, if you can't afford to live here, you don't deserve to live here. I cannot believe those comments from the community. So I hope that we can come together as a community, acknowledge the emotion, the frustration. We are listening, and we hope that we can support you, and the community also can support people who work in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments, board members? I would just like to thank you, Dr. Bill, for those comments. Also, I would just like to the young man who came with the funding app, Iman. Is that what his name is? Iman Gordon. Well, thank you, Iman. I know he's not here and he's long gone, but I just want to give a shout out to Birth to 5. He said he started at 4. So I'm just saying how important it is to have a good start and foundation from 0 to 5. So we need to support our littles. It's so important in the foundation of, you know, where they grow, and we get to see evidence of that. And also want to thank the Every Child Award recipients today for the work that they're putting in, and obviously those are being nominated by their colleagues. So thank you for that and getting to see that. And I would just echo the comments that we are listening, and we are limited sometimes as to what we say. But this is not. It is sad. It is sad because we are a Santa Barbara Unified District. We're not separated just because we may be on different sides of the issue, but we are Santa Barbara Unified. And so we need to figure out how we're going to get back to center. I know we can. I know we will. I know we must do that. And we cannot do it unless we do it together. And so I know we're going to continue to move forward with this and know that the board is listening. and we have to balance all sorts of things that we have to do. But I absolutely believe that we're going to get where we need to go. Anybody that's been in a district long enough knows that as well, that sometimes in the most difficult times, that's when you really have to really take that moment and exercise the strength that we have as a district, as opposed to allowing the challenge to split us apart. So we are listening to that, we are hearing that, and know that we're going to kind of work together to get to where we need to get. So with that, I'm going to move us to the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items you'd like to pull from the consent agenda for consideration? Superintendent, do you have any items you need to pull? Okay, thank you. With that, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I need a second.
I second the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, been motion and accepted. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And just to note that Ms. Munoz is not with us this evening, so any all in favor and 4-0 would be 4 votes would be the all in favor votes that we're having tonight, because we have our fifth member audio. Okay, so that moves us to our action agenda for G1, approval of the second reading of the Sunshine and Santa Barbara Unified School District proposal for successor contract negotiation with the California Schools Association, Employees Association, as you heard in the public hearings.
Okay, thank you, Board President Sims Moten. I do have before you for this item the approval of the Sunshine proposal that Santa Barbara Unified is putting forward in their successor contract negotiations with CSEA Chapter 37.
Okay, are there any requests to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the sunshine for the CSEA.
Second.
I know what I'm doing.
Okay, it's been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion approved. And you're still there, Dr. Vecchio, for item number G2, approval of the second reading Sunshine in California School Employees Association proposal for successor contract negotiations with the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Thank you. And again, this is CSEA Chapter 37's proposal. I think it is, since CSEA President Ken Rivas mentioned it, I think it is worth mentioning again that if you notice the different articles that they've cited here, it is a pretty big feat of theirs, and they're very organized about getting the input from all those different classifications to figure out what they want to bring to the bargaining table. So I do want to commend you for that, Ken, and your team. But anyways, this comes before you for approval.
Okay. Thank you. Any requests to speak on this item? No request to speak. With no request to speak, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the second reading of the sunshining of the negotiation between CSEA and the Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Second.
Been motion and second. Raise your hand. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Next, we will move to item G3, approval of memorandum of understanding between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Santa Barbara Teachers Association regarding class size for 24-25. Dr. Vecchio.
Thank you very much. And board members, as you will recall, on, I believe it was December 12th, we reached a tentative agreement in our negotiations with Santa Barbara Teachers Association on a class size proposal that would put the current class size levels that have existed for the past 3 years on a side letter with one-time funds into the contract. Due to the fact that we're going into impasse, that that tentative agreement is held up. I want to thank President Osby Galindo for putting forward this particular MOU that actually bridges us, knowing that eventually we will get to an agreement and implementing a tentative agreement on class size. This will get us what we need now so that we know what our staffing levels are going into the hiring season. So I want to put this before you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it, but this is before you for your approval tonight.
Okay, any requests to speak from the public? Okay, board members, comments or questions? Hearing no comments or questions, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Santa Barbara Teachers Association regarding class size for 24-25.
Okay.
Second.
Been motion and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for working through that, Dr. Vecchio.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to G4.
All right, G4 is our regular HR actions that have taken place in the Human Resources Office since our last meeting. And so I bring forward to you the Human Resources recommendations. Before I turn it over to you for consideration, I do want to point out that we do have a couple retirements to point out. I wanted to recognize Cami Stevens, who has been a longtime teacher, 33 plus years at La Colina Junior High, is retiring. And then as an HVAC mechanic, Charles Richardson, and he has 34 plus years service, so I want to congratulate both of them publicly. I also wanted to turn your attention to the classified premium pay, where we have Michael Rittenberg receiving a professional learning premium pay for his bachelor's degree, so congratulations to him. And with that, I turn it over to you for your consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you. Any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any comments or questions? Okay, we want to thank those who are retiring for their service to the district. With that, I need approval, a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the human resources recommendations.
I'll second.
Been motion and second, please. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Now we are moving to item G5, approval of emergent multilingual learners duty statement. Is that still you, Dr. Beckett?
That is. One more, and then I'll go sit down. So this comes before you tonight. This is a duty statement, really is kind of similar to a job description. When we receive federal funding, there's an accountability system in place for how we spend that federal money. And what happens is often there are positions created as supplemental services to students and families. And the requirement is that we have duty statements drafted and board approved and in place so that this ensures that the money we're spending on a particular position is going to those particular functions, as well as the person in the position knowing what they're actually doing during the time they're being paid for out of federal dollars. So this duty statement, this position is in place. These are secondary EML leads. There's a 20% position at each of the junior highs and 33% position at each of the high schools, each of the 4 high schools. The FPM, Federal Program Monitoring, pinpointed that this particular position did not have an approved duty statement, so this is being brought before you to comply with our federal program money. We have all the other duty statements. It's just this one we definitely need to get into place. So happy to take any questions that you might have.
Any requests to speak from the public? Board members, any comments or questions? So this really is just a reporting part that we need to make sure that we're in compliance with?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the duty statement for the EML lead.
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vecchio. Next, we're moving to action item G, item 6, adoption of resolution 2023-24-20 in honor of Black History Month. Board, Superintendent, you want to lead us off, and then if you have any comments for the.
We're proud to bring forward this resolution. As you know, we have been honoring Black History Month for many years in Santa Barbara Unified. And every year we look at some of the themes that come forward. We've heard a lot tonight about the arts being an important part of our school district, and this year's theme is that. You'll read about it in a minute. And I do want to recognize that as we think about the ABCs of schooling, we always talk about academics, the arts, and athletics. And so I'm proud to bring this forward. I'm hoping that we can do some activities in schools around the contributions of Black and African Americans to the arts in our country. Thank you.
Okay, and with the resolution, each of the board members will be taking a paragraph to read. I will start us off. Whereas Black History Month is celebrated during the month of February, originated in 1926 when Dr. Carter G. Woodson set aside a special period in February to recognize the heritage and achievements of Black people in the United States. The intention has never been to dictate or limit the exploration of the Black experience, but to bring to the public's attention important developments that merit emphasis. And
whereas many Black Americans lived and died in obscurity, never achieving the recognition those individuals deserve, and yet they paved the way for future generations. For a better tomorrow, we must elevate the stories of past to inform and help us know whence we come and understand how past experiences has shaped who we are today. And
whereas community conversations, celebrations, and multicultural and inclusive curricula are enthusiastic and captivating ways to help us understand the challenges, to see the triumphs that inspire us to search beyond the typical and to seek out the extraordinary. And
whereas the theme of Black History Month 2024, African Americans in the Arts, African American art is infused with African, Caribbean, and the Black American lived experiences in the fields of visual and performing arts, literature, fashion, folklore, language, film, music, architecture, culinary, and other forms of cultural expression. The African American influence has been paramount.
Whereas African American artists have used art to preserve history and community memory, as well as for empowerment. Artistic and cultural movements such as Black arts, Black Renaissance, hip-hop, and Afrofuturism have been led by people of African descent and set the standard for popular trends around the world. In 2024, we examine the varied history and life of African American arts and artisans, and
whereas for centuries, Western intellectuals denied or minimized the contribution of people of African descent to the arts as well as history, even as their artistry in many genres was mimicked and or stolen. However, we can still see the unbroken chain of Black art production from antiquity to the present, from Egypt across Africa, from Europe to the New World. Prior to the American Revolution, enslaved Africans of Low Country began their more than 300-year tradition of making sweetgrass baskets, revealing their visual artistry via craft. And
whereas the district has embarked on combating anti-Blackness as a focus of our school environments. This is evident in the formation of the Racial Climate Oversight Committee to ensure our commitment to improve the experiences of African American and Black students in our school. The district has partnered with community partners to expand opportunities for African American and Black students, and has partnered and families, including but not limited to Black Graduation and Awards, SBCC, Black Family Cookout, Family Engagement Classes, and Black Student Union Support and Alliance Healing Justice Santa Barbara, Tutoring Support Gateway, and Racial Trauma Counseling and Positive Affirming Healing Spaces, UCSB Healing Spaces. And
now, therefore, be it resolved that the Santa Barbara Unified School District Board of Education does hereby adopt this resolution to encourage Black History Month as an opportunity to bridge the past to a better and brighter future. We must not only prepare each of our students for a world that is yet to be created, we must strive to equip each student to face the world and to change it for the betterment of all.
And be it further resolved that Santa Barbara Unified continues its commitment to anti-racism, equity, and access to education as a core value, manifested by a steadfast commitment to creating welcoming, nurturing environments for all students and families, as well as directing supports and resources needed to eliminate barriers and promote student success and wellness. In the words of John Lewis, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble.
adopted and approved by the Board of Education of the Santa Barbara Unified School District on the 30th day of January 2024 by the following vote.
Thank you. Thank you, board members, for reading that. It's important to put voice to that, not as we just talked about things that not only happen and expose itself in February, but throughout the whole year, throughout the whole time that we're here. So I appreciate that, and thank you for that. So with that, may I have a motion for approval?
I will move to approve the resolution 2023-24-20.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion been passed. Second, all in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will move to item G7, approval of proposal from Horizon Mechanical, Inc. to install two condensing pool boilers at San Marcos High. Mr. Ho, thank you.
Well, good evening, President Sims Moton, board members, Dr. Maldonado. My name is Desmond Ho. I am the District Operations and Sustainability Coordinator. So tonight I'll be speaking to you about replacing two of our pool boilers at San Marcos High School. The two boilers there are currently 16 years old, despite having a 12-year service life. One of them has failed, and the other one is not far behind. Replacing the boilers with like-for-like boilers would be less expensive upfront, but would incur higher operating costs because of the higher natural gas use, more maintenance and repair parts, and also having to pay an annual permit fee to the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District. So condensing boilers are a newer technology that improves the efficiency of the boilers, allowing smaller boilers to be used instead. They also forego expensive maintenance parts, further reducing maintenance costs. And also having smaller boilers in this case would eliminate the annual permit fees that must be paid to the local APCD, or Air Pollution Control District. Finally, they have a 20-year service life as opposed to the 12 years for the traditional boilers. So the pair of condensing boilers would cost $283,873 and will have a 9-year return on investment. So Southern California Gas Company, or SoCalGas, has an interest-free loan called the on-bill financing, or OBF for short, to help front a good portion of the payment for this project. The OBF program is offering Santa Barbara Unified $241,873 towards this project, paid directly to the installer. This loan will be paid back over 15 years with an estimated monthly payment of $1,336 that will appear on San Marcos High School's natural gas bill. However, SoCalGas analysis also estimates that the monthly natural gas savings will be $1,366, meaning that we should not see any difference on the bill as a result. Additionally, there's a $7,500 incentive fund that they're providing for us to go with the higher efficiency boiler. With this OBF loan and the incentive funds, the upfront cost for the project will be $34,500. Therefore, we are recommending that the board approve the project, as it will save us over the long term and also reduce our natural gas use. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Banning.
I just want to say thank you again for presenting things in such clear language and helping us understand how we're improving the situation while saving money and doing it. I appreciate your work very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I just had just a question for clarification about, because the $1,336.32 is the estimated monthly payment, right?
Correct.
And then you said $1,336 will show the difference on the bill?
$1,336 is our estimated monthly payment, and we are expected to save $1,366. So they're very, very similar.
Okay. And so where do we get to the 34.5 savings? Is that the difference between the 7,500 project incentive? So I'm just trying to figure out, where does the 34.5 come in? I'm a little confused. The 34,500?
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
after the on-bill financing, which pays for that $241,000 up front,
Yes.
and then we take that away from the total project, as
Okay.
well as the $7,500 in incentive funds, that leaves us with $34,500.
Okay, thank you for making that clear for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you. With that, no comments. Board members, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the proposal from Horizon Mechanical Incorporated to install two condensing boilers at San Marcos High School.
I second the motion to approve the contract.
Okay, item in motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ho. I think you're still there for the next item. 8G8, approval of amendments to the power purchase agreement for Ingle North America. NG, is that what it says? NG.
NG, no
You know,
worries.
Yeah, NG. Okay, NG, thank you. Sorry, Ingle. NG North America. All right, thank you.
All right, so for my second presentation tonight, I'll be providing an overview of the solar and microgrid battery storage project, and talk about the construction of, or status of the construction, along with the challenges that we are facing, the cost increase that our solar contractor, NG, has faced, a rate increase proposal from them, and also the financial impacts. So as background, SB Unified negotiated a 28-year fixed-rate power purchase agreement in 2020 with ENGIE. A power purchase agreement, or a PPA for short, means that the contractors will construct, operate, and maintain the solar and battery storage systems. We do not own the system. Instead, we will pay for each unit of electricity generated by the system at a fixed rate. The solar project happened at 14 of our school sites. 8 of them are solar only, and you can see them on the left-hand column on the table. And the other 6 are solar and battery storage projects, which are on the right side of the table. The battery storage at each of the sites have smart controllers that will actually power the entire site in the event of a power outage, and until the batteries reach a certain threshold. After that threshold is reached, it will only power certain loads. So in most cases, it's going to power the IT equipment from ETS for phones and internet, and then our refrigerators and freezers in our kitchen, and then also the multi-purpose rooms. The entire system will provide approximately 70% of SB Unified's overall electricity use, meaning that we will still need to rely on Edison for the other 30%. And you'll notice that the table here is color-coded, so everything on the left is green, and the reason for that is because those are online and currently functioning. Everything on the right-hand side, you'll see yellow and red. Yellow means that they're going to be online soon. Red means that we're facing some challenges, especially from Southern California Edison. So for these battery microgrid sites, the 4 highlighted in yellow are under commissioning. So what this means is that ENGIE is testing the equipment and the smart controllers to ensure everything is functioning as it should. Once that is complete, they will submit for a permission to operate, or PTO, from Southern California Edison. They are anticipating that commissioning will be complete by the end of February, and it typically takes about a month for Southern California Edison to issue PTO. Therefore, by March of 2024, we anticipate those 4 sites listed there to be online. As for Dos Pueblos and San Marcos High School, each project has a different planner from Southern California Edison, and unfortunately for these 2 sites, they have been very, very slow or just straight up non-responsive for us in making our inquiries. For instance, at Dos Pueblos, we've been waiting 6 months to shut down the power so that our contractors can safely look at what parts they need to order. Therefore, we are anticipating that these projects are going to drag out to summer in 2024, assuming that they respond soon. So the reason for my presentation today is that since the contract was originally negotiated in 2020, ENGIE and most of the world did not expect for the high rates of inflation for both materials and labor costs that we have witnessed from late 2020 through 2023 to have happened. As a result, ENGIE actually incurred a verified $2,265,516 increase in the total cost of the project. They initially requested a 15% rate increase, which would amount to $3,884,000 over 28 years. They came up with this number as they incorporated a very high discount rate in their calculations. We countered with the following offer: an 8% increase, which would amount to an approximately $2,100,000 over 28 years. In addition, we had incurred $580,681 in construction change orders throughout the project, and I asked that they eliminate all of that to leave our entire contingency budget untouched. Therefore, realistically, ENGIE will be getting approximately $1.52 million after the construction change orders are eliminated. And this is over 28 years. I strongly believe that there is a high value to having our entire contingency budget untouched, as facilities will have a use for that fund that can benefit the district immediately. I will speak about that in the following presentation. This counter offer was accepted by ENGIE in December of 2023. So looking at the finances, when the contract was originally negotiated in 2020, we were estimated to save $7.1 million in electricity over 28 years. However, Southern California Edison rates have increased substantially from 2020 to 2023, at rates increased that were double to triple what we typically saw. Therefore, we are now estimated to save $14 million in electricity costs over 28 years, even when we incorporate that 8% increase. Therefore, we are still on track to save almost double what we originally were supposed to save. Therefore, we are recommending that the board approve the 8% increase to the power purchase agreement. Thank you very much for your time, and I will love to answer your questions.
Any request to speak? I see there's a request to speak.
Yes, we have one speaker for this item. It's Craig Lewis. Welcome.
Madam President, Board Superintendent, my name is Craig Lewis, and I am proud to say I'm a product of Santa Barbara Unified, Adams, La Cumbre, and San Marcos. Way back, graduated in 1981. This hometown, local boy. I am the founder and executive director of the Clean Coalition, which is a very technical nonprofit that does that facilitates these types of projects that we're looking at here. And in fact, the Clean Coalition facilitated these projects. We were involved in envisioning the projects. We were involved in doing the feasibility studies, running the RFP process, and the contracting. We have had no financial involvement since the contracting was completed back in 2020, but these projects are providing tremendous leadership or showing tremendous leadership for Santa Barbara Unified. I'm invited regularly to present at conferences, nationwide conferences, about these projects. So they're getting a lot of attention, and a lot of schools are following the lead of Santa Barbara Unified. So you have a lot to be proud of here, in addition to all the savings that you have, that you're accruing. I want to just be really clear that the issues that NG has run into have cost them a lot of money. Those numbers are legitimate, and I believe that you should approve the 8% increase. You want to have a happy partner in these projects for the long term, and these are supposed to be lasting for 28 years. You want to keep everybody happy. The Clean Coalition analysis, we kind of did our own analysis, and if you use the numbers that the Clean Coalition uses for the utility escalator, that's how much the utility costs are expected to go up. And those numbers that Desmond just showed only assume a 3% per year. It's going to be more like 10% a year. If you use those numbers, which is what Clean Coalition uses,
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, it's going to be more like $30 million in savings. So I think it's very fair. You want to keep NG happy, and I encourage you to approve the 8% increase. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay. Board members, you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a
Mr.
couple.
Escobedo?
Thank you, Mr. Ho. Do we have any indication about what the holdup with SCE is? I know they, in some cases, have been unresponsive, but is it a lack of capacity? Have you heard from other partners in the community that they're hearing the same, or you're hearing the same type of experience?
When it comes to SCE, everyone's consensus is that they work at their own pace. They will respond when they wish to, and they're pretty much generally beholden to no one. So unfortunately, we contact them. I have the local office numbers. I've personally gone over there to knock on their door. So far, I have not been able to have any sort of leeway with them. When you get a good planner, everything goes according to plan. But if you get some planners that are less than stellar, unfortunately, they can take as long as they would like. There's really been no recourse.
I wonder if this is an opportunity for us to engage with our state representatives to maybe interject. There may be a role for them because they are regulated by a state agency. Is that correct?
They're regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission.
Yeah. So I would encourage us to maybe reach out to our assembly member and our state senator to hopefully get us a reliable contact. The next thing, I wanted to elevate a point that Mr. Lewis made is this is a really big deal, and I'm sure that you all know that, but as Mr. Ho can tell you much better than I can, being at the end of the network for SCE, we have some tremendous challenges because when we have fires or high wind events, they can shut down our power to our region. and we're kind of an island. And so having these microgrids is not only a benefit to the school district, and we're going to save a whole lot of money, but it's also a benefit to the community. I remember during the Thomas fires, when folks were getting evacuated, they were looking for a reliable place to set up Red Cross and house people, and they found it at UCSB, but even we had intermittent power issues. And so having these community spaces, and we do have them throughout Goleta and Santa Barbara, is a community benefit, and I just want to elevate that and thank the previous board for making the decision to going down this path, and Mr. Ho for your leadership in identifying these opportunities at each of our schools. It feels like every time we get to see you, you have some really good news for us, and so thank you.
Additional comments from board members? Mr. Bennett? I'll just, Mr. Ho, we see eye to eye all the time. I was on that previous board that was not so convinced about this was the direction to go, just in terms of what we were thinking we were going to do. So it's always that thing. So I appreciate and echo the comments with regards to you're presenting, and you're always looking at innovative ways to, to elevate this, enhance this, and making our schools much more sustainable and in the opportunities that we have presented before us. And savings was one of those big things that I questioned when you were here. I need to see the proof in the pudding. So I have seen that over time, and I just want to acknowledge that in terms of now looking at that we're going to be doubling that and realizing that, because sometimes we're in the middle of a lot of things now, and so when we're saying we're saving $14 million, is that tangible dollars or is that in cost of utilities? I think it's really important for the public to know.
So this is going to be savings in terms of our electricity costs.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not getting $14 million. We are just not going to have to pay that for the next 28 years.
Okay, I think that's an important point to know, and why it's so important for many things that Mr. Escobedo mentioned. So with that, board members, and thank you from Craig, with that, board members, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the contract change with Energy.
Second.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Hope. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm still here.
I know. You're still here. You're on the next one. Yes. Now we're going to G9. Approval of proposal from EMCO, or is it MCOR?
MCOR.
MCOR. All right. Energy Building Management System upgrade. Mr. Hope.
All right, everybody. So for my last item this evening is going to be an energy building management system, which is actually our HVAC controls, and I'll explain what that is in just a second. So I'll be going over HVAC, which stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, control system, the proposed upgrades, and the fiscal impact. As a background, through the passing of California Assembly Bill 841, the California School Healthy Air and Plumbing Efficiency Program, or CalShape for short, was created. We applied for and were awarded a CalShape grant to assess the condition of our district's existing HVAC systems. We awarded the CalShape work to MCOR and Mesa Energy to perform the assessment work. One of the first recommendations that they made was to consider changing out our aging HVAC control systems. So our current control systems are split in roughly 3 ways. 1/3 of them are what's called Novar, which uses 1980s to 1990s technologies. They are extremely difficult to work on, and replacement parts are very difficult to find. The next third are Trend, which I call them semi-modern because they're slightly easier to work on, but parts availability is an issue, especially with the older material. Our last third are the modern Honeywell system, which uses a non-proprietary software system to work. All of our systems are controlled by maintenance and operations. However, the software programming is actually done with a proprietary program that is managed by a one-person contractor. I really have to emphasize that we're currently at the mercy of this contractor, as if anything happens to him, or if he decides to not return our calls or emails, a lot of our issues will not be resolved. Therefore, I asked MCOR to put together a proposal to get rid of this proprietary system, as well as replace the ancient Novar controllers. Their solution is to go with the Delta or Honeywell system that can be easily incorporated into a cloud platform. They will also integrate all existing Trend and Honeywell control system onto this cloud platform as part of this project. These controllers, as well as the cloud platform, are not proprietary, meaning that any qualified HVAC contractor will be able to work on it, severing our reliance on this one-person company. Finally, when I walked around the school sites, I encountered a lot of classrooms that have their windows and doors open while the air conditioning and or heating are on. Upon speaking with the teachers, many of them prefer the outside air, but they have no control over the system, so they open their doors and windows. Therefore, as part of this project, we'll be installing door switches so that if the classroom door is opened after a predetermined amount of time, it will either shut off the system or we can set it so it will go to ventilation only, so that it's going to turn off the air conditioning compressor and or heater element. This will provide ventilation to the rooms while saving us electricity and natural gas. So the project cost is $1,509,600. We are asking the board to also approve this along with a $200,000 contingency, as we are working with a very old system, so there's likely construction change orders that we cannot easily foresee. This brings the total to $1,709,600. We are proposing to fund this project via 3 different ways. Number 1, the CalShape funds have a contingency that allows it to be used towards upgrading controls, and this amounts to $402,497. With your approval of the PPA rate increase earlier with ENGIE, we will then free up the solar contingency fund of $1.198 million, which will go to entirety to fund this project. Finally, if we encounter enough unexpected construction problems, we will dip into the developer's fees for $109,103. It is anticipated that we will save $150,000 to $200,000 a year in electricity and natural gas costs. Therefore, we're anticipating that this project will pay for itself in 6.5 to a little under 9 years. Now, since most of this project is grant funded and also using a contingency fund that was never actually part of money that we took out, so the return on investment is actually going to be immediate. Therefore, I am recommending that the board approve the MCOR Building Management System Upgrade Project to reduce our operating costs and also to reduce our electricity and natural gas use. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any requests to speak from the public? Board members, any comments or questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Ho. May I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the proposal for MCOR Mesa Energy Building Maintenance Management System Upgrade.
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Ho. Next, we move to G10 with celebration. Mr. Escobedo.
Celebration indeed. Motion to approve petition for readmission of an expelled student, Education Code 48918, case number 202122-04, as well as 202122-29, and 202223-01, 202223-02, 202223-06, 202223-07, 202223-18, 202223-19, and 202223-31, Student and Family Services.
Been motion, need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and there were no requests to speak, right? Okay, usually not, but we just want to celebrate the work that the students and families do to get back to readmission. So with that, may a motion and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll move to item G11, acceptance of Adelante and Peabody Charter Schools' first interim financial reports for the fiscal year 23-24. Ms. Fernandez.
Good evening, board members. It's always so hard to go after Desmond. He does such a great job. So tonight, this is an item that we typically don't put on action, but I thought it would be a good idea just to kind of talk about what we do with our charter schools and the financial management that we do for our charter schools. So per Ed Code 4780, better put my glasses on. 47604-33, all school districts and charters must have their first interim budgets completed by December 15th. So we brought our budget forward to the board by that time, and our charter schools also need to bring their budgets to their boards by that time. And so we have 3 charter schools within the district. We have Santa Barbara Charter, which is a dependent charter, which means that their financials are part of our budget. And then we have 2 independent charters. We have Peabody and we have Adelante. And so each one has their own boards, they have their own budgets, and then as part of the fiscal management of those charters, I review their budgets and make sure that what they're saying in their budgets is I agree with. And so all of our those 2 independent charters, Adelante and Peabody, all reported positive certification, which means that they can meet their financial needs for the current year and for the 2 subsequent years, just like what we do. And I agreed with their estimates. They provided multi-year projections just like we do, and they do a really nice job. So so I review their budgets, and then I present some letters saying my analysis of them, and that's what we do every time we have budgets. So I just wanted to bring that forward just so you kind of understood what we do with our charters as well. And then after that, the charter budgets also go to Santa Barbara County Education Office, just like ours do, for another review before they go on to the state. So that's pretty much just what I wanted to bring forward here, just so that that you all can understand our fiscal management of our charters, and to open it up if you have any questions.
Okay, any requests to speak on this item? Any comments or questions from the board? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez, for that. And I think thank you for giving the background on that, or reminding us, those who've been here a little bit, but also just for the benefit also of our new board member. I just had a question in regards to, is there any liability on us with regards to any problems that may come up with charters?
Yes. For example, Santa Barbara Charter is part of our financial budget, and if there is any sort of an audit finding related to Santa Barbara Charter's budget, then we would see that on our budget. So that's something that's kind of different, just because they are part of us. So and our auditor reviews their budgets as well. And so then the other charter schools, they have their own budgets reviewed as well with their auditors. So,
right. Thank you. I appreciate that. With that explanation, no additional questions. May I have a motion for approval, board members?
I'll move to approve the Adelante and Peabody Charter Schools' first interim financial reports for fiscal year 23-24.
Second.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are moving to item G12, approval of the Student Transportation Bid Award to Zoom Services, or ZUM Services, Inc., from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2029.
That's me again. So this is, I am just so very, very excited about this. We have here with us tonight, we have Zoom, who will come up and do a presentation and kind of explain what their transportation services are about. We opened transportation up for bid to see who would respond to our RFP. We had 2 bidders. We had our current transportation company, which is the Student Transportation of America, and we had Zoom. And so we looked very carefully at both of these proposals, and in the end we selected Zoom. And a couple of things that really struck me with their bid is the technology piece and the data piece. We are an organization that really relies very heavily on data and being able to determine outcomes based on our data and information. And Zoom is they'll explain to you, they provide a great service in terms of technology and how we can actually track the data of the students who are on the buses, where they are being dropped off, and when they're being picked up, and the parents will be able to have an app that allows them to see a little text that will come up that'll say your student was picked up and your student was dropped off. The parents know exactly where their kids are, and I will be able to see behind the scenes as to where the buses are, if there are any situations that I need to be aware of. And there's a whole bunch of really interesting things they're going to tell you about how students will have bus cards, so that when they get on the bus, it's immediately logged in that student is there. So I am very, very honored to introduce Sarah to you. She will come up here and talk to you a little bit about Zoom. And if we have any questions, I also have Sita Torres in the audience, who is our legal team, part of our legal team that helped with the RFP process, if you have any questions on that. Okay. Come on up, Sarah.
Thank you so much, and we're really grateful for the opportunity to be here and thrilled at the opportunity to partner with Santa Barbara Unified to provide safe, reliable, and efficient transportation for your students and your families and schools. So we'll give a brief overview of not just Zoom, but our proposed approach and solution for Santa Barbara Unified, and happy to answer any questions as we go. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I assume I just click this way. Yes. Perfect. Okay, so without further ado, we'll jump right in. We were going to give a quick overview of Zoom and our proposed solution for Santa Barbara Unified. So just for background, for those of you who've never heard of Zoom before, Zoom was founded by a female mother of two who started the company really to solve a problem that she faced very personally in her own life, a challenge that so many families face, how to get her two students to and from school safely and reliably without having to leave responsibilities at home or at work. But rather than just solving this challenge for her own two students, she really set out to solve this problem at scale. So fast forward, we started working with school districts, and quickly what we realized is student transportation has largely not changed in almost over 80 years. It's often inefficient, it's quite costly, and pretty low tech, given all the advancements that we've seen in other industries. So our whole mission is to modernize student transportation, and we do that in 4 key ways. One is through our values and how we think about this work and how we partner with folks like yourselves. So first and foremost, we're customer obsessed. As an example, after every single ride, parents have the opportunity to rate their child's experience, and our average parent rating across our whole operation is 4.9 out of 5 stars, and that's across over 280,000 parent ratings and reviews. Any rating below a 4 out of 5 stars, our whole leadership team gets a ping, and our customer support team will call and follow up to find out what happened, to offer solutions, and to figure out how we can solve the problem. This is just one example of how we use data to support with the continuous improvement cycle. Other examples, we're thinking big and executing meticulously, not just taking it for that's how it's always been, but thinking about how do we design a better solution that's safer and more efficient for students, that's more convenient for families and for schools. Doing things the right way, we know we transport your most precious resources, your students, and we take that responsibility incredibly seriously. And then fourth, building better communities. It's one of our underpinnings of our commitment to sustainability. We're 100% carbon neutral today with the goal of transitioning our full fleet to EV, and looking forward to working with you as a district to help meet your sustainability goals as well. Number 2, we're student-centric, so probably much like you talk to your teachers and your teachers talk about in their classrooms, really thinking about students as the center of every decision. When it comes to decisions around safety and how we think about reducing student ride time, decisions we make around operations, and of course our commitment to sustainability. And what we've seen is when students are happy, parents are happy. And when parents are happy, schools are happy. When schools are happy, districts are happy. Third, we're incredibly employee-centric, so celebrating our drivers and our staff. Drivers are typically the first people that students see in the morning and the last person they see at the end of the day. So they quite literally make the system work. We invest in top-of-the-line equipment for safety and technology. Drivers spend 90% of their day in the bus, so having a seat that's comfortable with great support for their back, better acoustics. Many drivers are losing their hearing from the noise in school buses, so really investing in equipment that makes them feel valued, that makes their day-to-day jobs easier. Offering modern facilities, time to relax, training facilities between shifts, training that provides opportunities for upward growth and development, and then of course competitive pay and modern benefits for all of our drivers as well as our staff. Fourth, we offer a proprietary technology platform. It's a cloud-based system that's really been designed to improve safety, transparency, and efficiency. So it connects all stakeholders on a single platform, offering an app for parents to see information and real-time updates for their child. Drivers get turn-by-turn directions and can easily see any special instructions for students who are assigned to their routes. Routing analytics that support with increasing efficiency, management, and optimization. And then, of course, a dispatch dashboard as well as a school and a district dashboard that gives you all visibility to everything happening across the operation, or school administrators visibility to just the routes coming to and from their school. And we'll jump into the technology in just a minute. And then last but not least, we're 100% carbon neutral today with the goal of transitioning our full fleet to EV. As I mentioned, we're really looking forward to working with you as a district to help you achieve your sustainability goals with a fiscally responsible transition plan. So what can your district and community expect from Zoom? You can expect a partner that is incredibly customer and employee focused, that's innovative and problem solving in our mindset and approach, that's very transparent and really looks at data proactively as a way to identify proposed solutions or think about how we can do better every day. And then also a team with a very strong bias to action. So you'll see us acting quickly, communicating quickly, and we're really looking forward to bringing that partnership and customer service to your team. With that, we have a great track record of excellence. Our average on-time performance across all our operations is 98%. We currently work with about 4,000 schools and 130 school districts. I already shared our average parent rating, which I think of as our North Star, is 4.9 out of 5. And we're really proud of the solution and the partnerships we're bringing to our school district partners, but we're also excited to share a little bit more about our technology and reporting, which Ms. Hernandez had mentioned a bit in her introduction. So when we designed the platform, one of the things we thought about is how to provide that real-time data in a format that's easy, that's turnkey, and that's simple for folks to use. So parents receive a notification when their child's been safely picked up, safely dropped off. They can see when the vehicle is approaching to prepare their student, make sure they're ready. You know that morning routine in households is chaotic, but if a kid can get ready and get their backpack on, it really helps to smooth that transition to school and ensures that they arrive on time and ready to learn. Likewise with RFID cards, it allows a driver to quickly see and greet that child by name from the very first day of school, helping to build those relationships, preventing a student from ever boarding the wrong bus or getting off at the wrong stop. And we know that safety is paramount, especially if ever you've experienced in your schools a lost or unidentified student. This is a huge piece to prevent that. Student-specific instructions, we really got our roots in supporting students with special needs. So providing information for drivers to ensure the best care and safety for students. We don't need to know everything in a child's IEP, but whether it's a child who might be nonverbal, to ensure that that driver knows, especially if it's a substitute driver, or a child who has a peanut allergy who might be traveling with an EpiPen, we want to provide that right level of information to ensure the safest experience. And parents will have access to an app to view information for just their child, things like the location of the vehicle, driver information, pickup and drop off information, and then they also have the ability to cancel a ride if they're going to take their student to school or maybe that child has an appointment. So in closing, I wanted to leave you with a question that we spend a lot of time asking ourselves here at Zoom, which is what's the legacy that we want to leave behind? And I'm excited and really commend you in thinking about the change and this opportunity this transition presents for you, and obviously encourage you to select a partner that you think is the right partner to take the district into the next phase. Some of the things that we're looking forward to bringing to the table is, as I mentioned, just exceptional service and partnership at an optimal cost, an innovative company, a student-centric and customer-obsessed company, a brand new fleet of school buses with all top-of-the-line equipment, a commitment to communication and exceptional service, and then technology and data that gives you visibility to everything from performance metrics to state reporting and more. and then of course a commitment to being a fiscally responsible partner. So I will close there and see if folks have any questions, but I really appreciate your time, and hopefully you're excited to hear about some of what we shared today and excited to learn more as we kick off the partnership.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. Do we have?
Yes, we have three public comment speakers. The first one is a virtual public commenter, William Kenny. Do we have William Kenny online?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hi. Full disclosure, I am a STA employed driver. I was just curious. I had heard from my company that we rated highest among the district in every single metric that you compared the two contracts with, except for cost of the contract itself. I'm curious why the district is prioritizing its financial status over the welfare of its students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jed Johnson.
Thank you. Jed Johnson, Teamsters 186 Business Representative. Student Transportation of America, otherwise known as STA, has been a trustworthy partner providing safe and timely busing services for Santa Barbara Unified School District for decades, since 1992. Employees at STA don't just work in the community, they live in the community. Employees at STA, they're back there in the back, they have a vested interest in keeping the community safe. When bidding on a 5-year contract, STA received a perfect score, just like the gentleman said, except for one category, price. And that's because STA was trying to do the right thing and get their employees more money in their hourly wages. The Teamsters and STA are currently in the process of negotiating a significant pay increase that the drivers would be able to live their daily life. The cost of living in Santa Barbara is very expensive. Plus, they have a 6-hour guarantee. Under this new proposal with this new company, Zoom, they only get a 5-hour guarantee. They get less in hourly wages. As Zoom had stated, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? Technology sometimes fails. Apps sometimes fail. 32 years of loyalty from STA? That's reliable. That doesn't fail. I ask you to reconsider and award the bid to Student Transportation of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cameron Nazemzadeh. Sorry.
Hello, I'm Cameron Nazemzadeh. I oversee California operations for Student Transportation of America. I was under the impression I had 3 minutes, so I will omit a couple items here. Student Transportation of America has been providing student transportation services to the district since 1992 and is uniquely positioned with the knowledge and experience to successfully operate transportation services here. STA has built a quality team of safe professional drivers and staff from within the community. We currently have drivers, staff, facility locations, and buses in place. A new provider would need to put all of that in place in a matter of 5 months. With that being said, I'd like to point out two potential challenges. Clearly stated tonight, driver pay is a huge challenge. The contractor proposal outlines their plan for driver pay with a $26.25 starting wage and a 5-hour daily pay guarantee. The daily amount proposed to pay is less than STA currently pays its drivers on a daily basis and much less than our proposed driver pay rates for next year. Based on the current labor market, our driver pay rates have resulted in extreme staffing challenges and minimal applicant flow. STA has filled driver vacancies with drivers from other STA locations, which we do at our own cost. We outlined these driver pay concerns in the appeal letter that we submitted to the administration, and we want to be sure the board is aware, as this issue was not addressed in the analysis of the STA appeal. The second portion is the facility. The Santa Barbara area is a very difficult area to locate suitable properties to operate transportation services. The contractor proposal states that they intend to operate from a facility at 891 South Kellogg Avenue in Goleta. This property is located in the California Coastal Commission's protection zone, which regulates the use of land and water in the coastal zone. In addition to the City of Goleta development permits, the property may require a California Coastal Commission development permit. The property is also the subject of current litigation between the City of Goleta and the property owners concerning alleged past violations for unpermitted grading, filling, outdoor lighting, fencing, improper erosion control, and construction of unpermitted structures.
Thank you for your public comment. Thank you.
STA understands the cost of transportation has increased dramatically under new contract, but we ask the board to consider the cost to the district community in terms of unreliable or non-existent bus service.
Thank you.
concludes the comment. Board members' comments or questions? Mr. Escobedo? No comments, questions? Okay. I did have a couple of questions, mainly around with regards to the technology, as we say. So I'm just wondering who's monitoring this technology. This is a lot of student information, if I'm hearing that correctly, that's going out. And so how are we protecting our students' information?
All of the data is encrypted end-to-end, and it's secured. Also, all the staff sign in with SSO, so they have to be credentialed to log in, which is great for a lot of reasons. You know, in many cases in transportation, sensitive student information is printed out on a route sheet in 7 pages and lands in the bus and lands at the yard. So in many ways, moving it to a secure platform where that's the drivers log in, the teachers log in, and parents only have access to their own students. It's really additive, but obviously as a company, we take student privacy incredibly seriously, and we're happy to share more about all of our privacy policies as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important for, you know, in this day and time.
Absolutely.
That we make sure that we're protecting that data. So who in our district will be monitoring this? So Kim, would that be you?
Yeah, transportation falls under my umbrella.
Okay.
The actual student data and all that stuff is with Mr. Ramirez, and there is a whole agreement that we'll be signing for that, just to make sure that the data processing is and privacy is.
And so this app is going to be with the parents. So how are we, you know, because we have parents with regards to screen time, that's not necessarily that. Will the kids have to have an app to get on the bus? Okay.
No, but the students will have a card to get on the bus, though.
Okay. Okay. Just asking these questions around safety.
Yes, absolutely.
So card. So not necessarily, because a lot of our kids carry phones. But it's actually going to be a physical card. So how are we protecting loss of that, replacement of that?
Two comments on that. So yeah, they can scan if they have a phone. They can scan instead of having a card. They can also use their card, and if they lose their card, they can still ride, which is super important, right? We all know kiddos forget things, and the driver can always check the student in, so they'll never be prevented from using transportation. And then if a student loses their card within the school dashboard, you can request a replacement, and Zoom does all the printing and distribution to provide a replacement card. And again, the student can still ride in the interim before their new card is provided.
Well, I can appreciate the technology and the usage of data to move us into this next century of what we're doing. I just want to be mindful of that. You know, we have young ones, you know, and so I just really want to be really mindful of that. Second question I have is about, this is a 4-year, I believe, contract? Is it 5 years? Is it 20?
It's a 5-year contract.
Okay, so this is a new contract, or should the board approve this tonight? So where in that process are we able to reevaluate? Because we're looking for 5 years, so where can we come back and bring it back to the board to?
We do have a termination clause in there should something happen, that we mutually decide it's not working or whatever. So there is a termination clause in there. But we also, after the first 2 years, the contractor would be able to come to us and say, if there were any cost increases that were unforeseen or fuel increases that occurred that, were over and above what we had anticipated, those kinds of things, they're able to come after 2 years and share those with us, and we would discuss those. And if we all agree that yes, that needs to be included, then we would bring addendum.
Bring that cost there. And I noticed you did say if you got a 4.9 out of 5 that you get a ping. Is that just for us as a district or from parents? How do you spoke about that.
So just to clarify, parents have the opportunity to rate their experience after every single ride. Now, granted, not every parent does after every single ride, but they always have that opportunity, and also to leave a review. And so we track all of the reviews, and it's visible, at the driver level, at the district level. What I had mentioned is we actually get a ping for anything lower than a 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
So and that's kind of on the commitment to making sure we're using that data to improve performance. We love to use the celebrations to celebrate our drivers and to share with the drivers what parents have said about them and what they love about their service. But we also really want to know if there's anything, maybe it's the bus had trash on it, or maybe it was that there was a delay. We really use that information to follow up on figuring out what we can do better. And you all have visibility. We do tons of performance reviews with you, but you have visibility all the data in the platform. You can see, did the bus leave the yard on time? Did they arrive at their pickup stop on time? Which students boarded the bus at that stop? And that's the type of information we use to audit the routes, to know not just ridership and attendance tracking, but are there changes to the actual route details that'll help to improve on-time performance? Because we know that getting kids to school on time, not just by the bell, but in time to have breakfast and get to school, is a really critical part of ensuring success for all the students that you're working so hard to provide services for.
Okay, so I know that we've done our diligence, and with regards to the technology and the finances, my other question is about safety. Are there seat belts on the student? Okay.
Yes, yeah, and I'm happy to share more details about the fleet. But yeah, with the brand new buses, seat belts and a lot of top of the line safety equipment as well. There's also cameras on the buses. We use cameras also to look at driver behavior. So every minute the driver's driving, it gets a safety score, and we use that for ongoing professional development. It's a great way to say, here are some things we're noticing, and just like in the classrooms, it's not just about pre-service training, it's about that ongoing training as well.
Okay, thank you. So maybe perhaps you can maybe share with the board, maybe you have some, just, what's the safety issues on the fleet, just as you started to say here, to talk about we don't have to talk about it in that sense, but if we could share with the board about the safety features such as a seatbelt and the
Sure.
drivers, all of the different things. So
Yeah, sure. Seatbelts, things like child check to make sure that so when the driver gets on the bus, they scan their card. It's what triggers the clock in. So drivers really like it because it ensures they're paid accurately. And then, before they finish a ride, they have to go to the back to ensure they're checking all of the seats to make sure no child is sleeping or that there's no personal items that have been left. Those are all just some examples. Cameras inside the bus that provides a 360 view. That's often really helpful if there's some concern about student behavior. We use that footage also to support with training and thinking about how do we support drivers with things like de-escalation strategies, or partnering with school leaders to see what works for this kid in the school environment and how do we bring that to support with student management on the bus. There's so many things. I think a lot of it is also just having top-of-the-line brand new equipment, fewer failures. We use DVIRs, digital vehicle inspection, where when the driver gets on the bus, they have to inspect the bus pre-service and post-trip, which every driver has to do, but usually happens on paper. And the implication of having to do it on the app is that they have to go through every step and sign off and certify before they're able to start the ride. So it ensures you can't skip it or do it later and then submit the form. And then likewise, if there is an issue that would take a bus out of service, right away dispatch and our safety managers can see, which enables us to fix issues sooner and prevent any vehicle that has an issue from ever being assigned for another route. When you think about the operation at scale, that's a really critical piece, right? Because these little things add up and it gives visibility across the full operation to every single aspect.
okay, thank you. And then my last question is to the backup to the technology, because it does, we see even with our solar equipment, it just does. So what's the backup plan should technology go down?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not wrong. There's no technology is not the secret weapon, right? It's all about making people's jobs easier. Right. But the backup is great training, and drivers always have a printed route sheet in the same way they would have otherwise. But drivers have to pre-trip and do dry runs on their routes before they ever drive that route. So ideally, they know where they're going either way. I think the backup is just good foundational training and ensuring that we're supporting and training our drivers to really be prepared from day one, and then giving that ongoing management and support, which we have great examples of our operational leaders who really provide a lot of ongoing support to drivers to make sure that they have the support that they need day to day.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Of course.
So with that, any additional comments or questions, Ms. Bill?
I have a few questions. The first is about the technology. You had talked about attendance. So is there a interaction between your company and the school district if students are not on the bus and they are supposed to be on the bus? I was kind of unclear about what attendance meant.
Yeah, great question. So when we talk about attendance and ridership, we're really looking at attendance on the bus. It wouldn't, we always tell parents if their kid's not attending, they still need to let the school know. It doesn't replace whatever policies you have as a school or as a district of letting, your teacher or your school know. But when we think about ridership, what's so important is you think about optimization and efficiency. You need to know not just the direction of the route, but how many kids are on that bus. Often there's opportunities to increase efficiency if you have a bus that's half empty and you can consolidate that into, split a route into smaller vehicles, or you can consolidate that to leverage the vehicle more efficiently. So it's a big piece of how we think about optimization, but it's also a really important piece how we think about safety, because to your example, if ever a school were to call and say, hey, a parent reported that the child didn't come home, we can right away log into the system to see, did the child board the bus? Did they exit at the right stop? And then we can obviously pull video footage, as opposed to not knowing if that kid didn't make it home, not knowing whether they were on the bus or not.
So just to expand on that question, they have these cards. So when they exit a bus, is there some sort of scanner that automatically records that they've left the bus in case they get off at a different stop?
Yeah, great question. So the drivers have students assigned to their route. When the child boards the bus, they tap their card. It's not an air tag, it's not following the kid in real time, but they tap their card on the reader, and that's what triggers the notification, not just that the bus has arrived, but the child has boarded the bus. Same thing when the child exits the bus, they tap their card, and the kids like it, it makes a little clicking sound. But if a child has forgotten their card or lost it, the driver can always check them in or check them out manually on the driver tablet.
Okay, so two separate questions. If I look at your presentation, it looks like that you started in the Oakland area. Is that correct? Or is where?
Yeah, so our headquarters is in the Bay Area. So we work with Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles Unified. We work with school districts all over the country, but a lot of folks in the California area. We currently operate in California, Washington, Tennessee, Maryland, Illinois, Texas, and we're launching in Pennsylvania and Connecticut this year. So pretty broad presence, but definitely our biggest presence is in California.
And how long have you been in the longest running district? How long have you provided services there?
We've been working with Oakland, I think, since 2017. We do all their transportation services for Oakland. They're probably our longest. So we've been in operation about 8 years, and they're probably our longest standing contract for similar in scope to yours.
And then the final question, maybe one that's a little bit challenging. So this looks like a new paradigm in student transportation, which is technology, yes. This is a difficult question. How do you see, these are contracts, and there's a cost to the contract, and how is your company being able to offer a savings as you compete for these contracts? So how are you saving money?
How are we saving money? I mean, one is in working with you to look at efficiencies. If there's an opportunity to do things more efficiently, we'll always present recommendations. Whether it is in looking at routes where there's low ridership and thinking about ways we can increase ridership. In Oakland, for example, when we started the contract, they were running 105 buses, and over 70% of their students were traveling more than 60 minutes on the bus. Also, they had about 40% ridership on their buses. Now that ridership is upwards of 70% on every bus, and fewer than 10% travel more than an hour, and about the majority travel less than 20 minutes. So one of the things we looked at is reducing student ride time while also reducing the cost for the district. And we did that in a couple of ways. Is one, looking at routes for which the ridership wasn't very high, and then thinking about efficiency and how we could break bigger buses into smaller buses to run the routes more efficiently based on fleet capacity and driver availability. But there's no, silver bullet. We don't come in with all the answers. It's about using the data to make recommendations and to share those ideas with you, but always approving and really wanting to understand what your goals are as a district. Similarly with EV transition, Oakland's on track to be 100% EV by the end of 2024, and we're super proud they'll be the first 100% EV district in the U.S. San Francisco's on track to be fully EV by 2025. And one of the ways we've been able to do that with a fiscally responsible transition plan is having an EV grants team that's applied for grants on behalf of the district to pass on the best cost to the district. This last round of EPA funding, Zoom was awarded about $26.5 million, and that's all costs that we're able to pass on to you. So knowing your broader sustainability goals, it's certainly something we're looking forward to working with you all on. But we don't come in with, here's how you're going to do it. We really want to work with you and partner with you to make sure that we're helping to bring your goals to life in a way that feels comfortable and collaborative. The other thing I would add, if it's okay, just to say one more thing, technology is not the only answer. I mean, a lot of what has made us successful is folks who have deep experience in student transportation. Liz, who you'll meet, and Kim or Ms. Hernandez has met before, she brings over 35 years of experience in student transportation. She was previously COO at Durham and SVP at First Student. So part of what has been our secret sauce is the combination of folks who bring industry expertise from all different industries. But one of those, first and foremost, is student transportation, because those are the folks who understand what is important when it comes to driver training and, what is important when it comes to culture at the yard. And we've got great examples of that sitting right here. But I think it's the marrying of folks with different perspectives that is really what makes Zoom unique. It's not the technology in and of itself.
Additional comments or questions, board members? Thank you for your presentation and the questions, answering the questions. Do I have a motion for approval, or? We still processing? What are we thinking?
I'll move to approve the Student Transportation Bid Award to Zoom Services, Inc. from July 1st, 24 to June 30th, 29.
I'll second.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'll just have one final comment. Thank you, board members. Just in terms of the bid price, and as we look at it, because I will be looking at any price increases. We're coming in as a lower bidder, but I think it's important to note that 2 years later, not making it such a large space to make up a cost that was lower. So it's important to look at that cost, to review that cost. But thank you for your presentation, and thank you for this information, and we're looking forward to what this is going to look like. Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, we're now moving to G13, approval of contract between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Los Angeles County Office of Education for Project California Regional Ethnic Studies Collaborative. Michelle.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Superintendent. I'm here to ask for the approval of a contract between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Los Angeles County Office of Education in collaboration with the California Regional Ethnic Studies Collaborative. This is an income-generated contract, and we have been at the forefront of our ethnic studies program. We have an amazing department and amazing group of teachers, and they have been asked to participate in this collaborative to work towards building lessons and putting it into a ethnic studies hub is what they're calling it, as schools jump on and start adding ethnic studies into their programs. We're at the forefront, and we're going to be providing lessons for them to provide for other teachers.
Any requests to speak on this item? Board comments or questions? Well, yeah.
I just want to comment and thank, I know that Art Nelson is not here, but Allison Quijano and others who have been at the forefront of developing these lessons. I also want to commend the previous board and the previous superintendent who had the foresight in 2018 to make this a graduation requirement in our school district. And we have led at the state level when it comes to ethnic studies. And for that, I want to thank prior leaders, prior board members, and others as we continue to really emphasize the importance of the student experience, their sense of belonging, their sense of feeling seen and valued for who they are. I think that was basically groundwork for some of the work we're doing now in terms of the Racial Climate Oversight Committee and all the work that we continue to do as an equity-minded district. So I just want to thank everyone for that, and thank you, Dr. Sheffield, for getting us a revenue-generating contract.
Thank you. Yeah, I was here on that board when we were passing that. I think it was 2018. 2018. It seemed like a long time, but I recall very fondly the students were here because it really came out of the community. It's really started out of the community and it came to the district, and there was pushback on it as different things, people perspective, but it really has stood the test of time, and to now see it come full circle, to be able to share it out with other districts, that says a whole lot. So again, I want to extend my thanks to those who initially put the work in to start it, and to see the students how important it was to them. And again, as we continue to be an equity-minded, inclusive-minded district, these are one of the very things that we need to have, and I'm proud to have been a part of that, and now that to see it carrying on, because we're ahead of the curve, and now others are trying to do that. So it's good to have something, in place to share, because I think it's really important to share good practices and best practices. So thank you for bringing us here. And of course, there's always some money, so we want to never going to say not never, but just in terms of it becomes a generator for the work that's going on. So are there any public comment to speak on this? Okay. Board members, no comments or questions additionally? Okay. With that, may I have a motion? Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. Motion for approval?
Looking the right thing. Where is it up here? Okay, I move to approve the contract between Santa Barbara Unified School District and Los Angeles County Office of Education for the Project California Regional Ethnic Studies Collaborative.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And looking forward to an update of that collaboration, Superintendent, when you get to that. Come back and update the board on where we are on that process. All right, next we'll move to G14, approval of staff travel and virtual participation out of state and or in excess of 3,000. We have okay, Mr. Steve.
All right. As you could see, the travel that's on the list, I wanted to point out two specific things for you with the 5 trips that are being presented. One in particular is that we have, out of the 43 people who will be traveling as part of these trips in particular, I would say that I've counted up, and what's not on here, by the way, I want to make it clear, is the AVID, the bottom one, AVID Summer Institute 2024. That is on the board agenda. That's a separate list. That group, they have 29 people attending that. 27 are administrators, not administrators, they're teachers. Well, that was bad. That would be wild. Okay, so 27 teachers out of 29 people attending. And actually, one is a COSA, a counselor on special assignment, so that would be Gabby, so that's the 28th, and the 29th person identified is Dr. Shetfield. However, out of all of these trips, in particular, out of the 43 people attending these various trips, 40 are teachers, so it's 93%. One is a classified staff, which you've heard Desmond Ho. It's very important that we provide professional learning for Mr. Ho. And as you can imagine, that the experience or the opportunities are very distinct and unique. And then we have 2 administrators within here. So Dr. Shetfield, and also I know with the CABE conference, we have Ms. Ochoa, principal at McKinley, which makes perfect sense. The other thing I wanted to point out with this is that you'll notice on the right-hand column, all of the funding sources in particular, they are restricted funds. So the first one is they're categorical funds, so that could be specifically used for this, but these are funding sources that are not used for ongoing salary. They're used specifically for items such as this. So with that, I bring the staff travel for this month.
Okay, no request to speak? Okay. Board members, any comments or questions? Well, thank you for that. I thank you for the additional detail and putting it out here so we can up for a discussion. I know there's been concerns and questions and around the travel. So this really kind of puts it to, in terms of being detailed and transparent about where we're going with that. So I appreciate the detail that was added and the fact that it's in action, in the action item. With that, board members, may I have a motion for approval?
I motion to approve staff travel, virtual participation for out-of-state and/or in excess of $3,000.
Second.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. And next, we're moving to G15, approval of overnight school-sponsored student trips. Dr. Sheffield.
Good evening again. Here before you, we have our student travel that they will be going with staff. These are overnight trips. We have elementary as well as our high school presented here. So we have our Astro Camp for Monroe. Our Dos Pueblos mock trial team will be traveling. Santa Barbara High School, their Computer Science Academy will be taking a trip, and then we have our Dos Pueblos Avid trip. These are all funded in a variety of different ways. For our Monroe camp is PTA donations. Then our mock trial, they do competitions, so they use their fundraising and ASB funds. For our California Academy, our Computer Science Academy, that is funded by CTE funds. And then Avid, for our Avid trip, we provide that opportunity for our high school students to visit colleges. And so all of our high schools make those Avid trips, and we use Avid funds for that.
Okay, thank you. Any requests to speak from the public? Any board member, any comments or questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the overnight school-sponsored student trips with understanding that they may be canceled if deemed necessary.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bill. Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Again. Thank you again for the detail with regards to the travel. So thank you for that report. Next, we're moving to our report. That concludes our action item. So we're going to presentation of Santa Barbara Unified annual financial reports for the period ending June 2023. And board members, as we're looking at time, do some self-care. If you need to take a break, feel free to do that. But Doctor, we wouldn't do that. We're going to stay full out here because it's Friday.
I thought you were all going to get up. No. Okay, so this is the fun part of the evening where I get to introduce our wonderful auditor, Royce Townsend. We have had a great relationship with having Eide Bailey for several years now. Royce, I have worked with him in the past at other organizations, and he's an amazing auditor. And so he's going to talk to you tonight about our annual audit that was for last year, that ends June 30th of the prior year. And so I'm going to just turn it over to Mr. Townsend.
Thank you all so much for having me here this evening. So we'll move along here. This is your audit as of June 30th, 2023, and I'm trying to figure out how this moves. Okay, there we go. Let me move back here. To recap, what we're reporting on is the audited financial statements for the district, which includes these three specific areas. And I note that the auditor's opinion is the only part of the audit report which is really ours. It's called an audit report, but that's the only part of it that's really ours. Everything else in this audit report is the information of the district. We're looking at financial statements, federal awards, and state compliance. And in addition to this, make sure I get this right. No, I didn't. We're also going to talk about the Measure I and Measure J audits. This is focusing on financial statements and performance. Performance meaning, are you compliant with Article 13A of the state constitution and the bond measure requirements as you expend those funds? So, as a recap, I always like to, gosh, I hope I hit this button right. There we go. Point out what an audit is. Okay, and it's intended to provide you reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement, and that's in contrast to total assurance. Total assurance means we'd be looking at every single item, and that's not what happens here. I mentioned to you earlier the auditor's opinion. The highest level of assurance that the audit can provide is an unmodified opinion. But from your perspective, I think it's always good to note that the audit provides you some assurance about whether or not you can rely on the information that you're getting from your business management as you make your decisions. The audit is really based on risk assessment. This year we note in our communication to you that there's always two inherent risks in every single audit, and that's management override of the controls that they established, put in place, as well as revenue recognition. So these, again, are always existing. And because we don't look at every single transaction, we utilize a sampling methodology as we work through the audit process. So, with that said, there's 113 pages in this report. There's two specific pages that I always address and point to the direction of the governing board, and one summarizes the audit outcome, and that's the view of it there. So let's just talk about that really quick. Three specific areas. As it relates to the financial statements, we are providing you an unmodified opinion. We did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies of internal controls related to the financial statements. For federal awards, again, an unmodified opinion. We had two specific federal programs. There's tons of COVID dollars that are still being spent down, and as a result, those are what we call higher risk programs, and they're almost always tested. Again, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies related to both internal controls and compliance of federal dollars. And then lastly, state compliance. Again, 38 programs this year that we had to look at, and then there's 17 additional programs that are charter school specific that we also had to consider. An unmodified opinion in all those programs. We did not identify any material weaknesses. However, we did identify a few significant deficiencies that are noted in the back of the audit report. I mentioned to you two specific pages in the audit. The second and last is the schedule of financial trends. Trends are really important. Here's the only place in the audit report where you have historical information that you can look at. From your perspective, I think it's important to note that you are projected to have a deficit for the 23-24 year that you're in right now. And I do mention that you're maintaining available reserves, but they are decreasing. And ADA continues to decrease as well. So that doesn't impact you quite as much because you're a community-funded district, but it is important to note that you have less students to serve, and that's part of your expenses. So with that said, that summarizes the outcome of this audit. We have, there we go. Let me go back to that. The Measure I and the Measure J. For both of these, unmodified opinion, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And here's the performance. And the dollar amounts of what we looked at, 68% of all the expenditures in Measure I and 91% of all the expenditures in Measure J. And for the performance, we did not identify any expenditures that we felt did not comply with Article 13A of the state constitution or your bond measures. So that summarizes the outcome of your audit, and I was happy to answer any questions you may have related to your financial statement audits.
No.
There's a lot of information, isn't it?
No, I was just saying, he's shaking his head no, because I did just have to ask that question. Did the public have any questions? And he's saying no. So with that, any comments or questions from the board? I would just like to add, Mr. Banning, just before you speak, Mr. Banning and I are on the audit committee, and we had a good conversation, in-depth conversation with Kim and Lacey and Elena. I got them all. Okay. Yes, and just ask some questions, and then we'll, call up some highlights as well. But Mr. Banning, do you have some comments?
There's nothing more exciting than audits. What can I say? No, I'm with a district budget this size. I'm impressed with how it's gone. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the committee that did that. I have no specific questions.
Well, thank you. I go through this annual audit thing on my day job, so I just can appreciate no material weaknesses and no material deficiencies. I did just for the public. I think it's on page 8.
Page 8 of the audit report?
Yes, page 8 of the audit report. I think I also had a question for our team as
So
well.
I think you're talking about what the section is called the management's discussion and analysis. And so this is the part of the audit that is really management's discussion. We assist them in putting this together, but this is primarily their information. But if you have a question, I'm happy to make an attempt to respond, but you may have to follow it up with your management.
Actually, I'm sorry. So I'm not sure because there's a page in the financials. Maybe that's a better way. It says the district as a whole net position on that page.
Okay.
Where we have in 2022 we had 39,852 with that figure, and then we had 7 million in 2023. So can we explain that difference?
Well, that's really as a result of the change in the current year operations. And I'll note that those are deficit positions also. I mean, they're bracketed by negative numbers. So really, you are almost $40 million deficit position with your net position related to the current year, which is 7. Now, the thing to remember is that these sets of statements are what we call full accrual accounting. You work in the world of modified accrual accounting. The difference is that these incorporate long-term assets and long-term obligations. And the biggest change would have been something, in this case, you have more restricted ending fund balance in 2023, which is reducing that, which is causing part of the reduction from that number going down. That's really, when I look at this, that's where I see the change.
I just think it's important as we're looking at numbers and what they mean and what they don't mean, and we can get ahead of confusion if we just on the front end of explaining it.
Yeah, I think really these are required statements here,
Yes.
but the ones that, you know, as I said, the ones that the district lives in is the fund financial statements, and that's really back on page 17. And that's really what you live in. That's the world where you operate.
Yeah.
And those are the numbers that I think you always want to focus on.
Okay, I think so. And also just appreciate it too. I think you pointed out it was page 89, or I'm not sure, but with regards to the trends, that's another place to look to, just in terms of what had happened over time.
I think as a governing board, that's always a good page to look at. You can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Yeah. That was just a few minutes ago, but okay, just in terms of that. But just appreciate that, and just appreciate the audit, the cleanness of it, and always when there's recommended, improvements, the team always is willing to do that and making sure that we're on top of things and learning different things. Because when I first came on the board now 8 years ago, the issue was ASB. Lots of findings there, and so over time we worked through it. We've gotten less down, maybe 1 now, but I know that's kind of typical when you're working with the community and different things. But the policies and procedures that are now put into place are really good, and we've done that. So I'm just going to share my appreciation to the team who really listens and says, how can we improve our processes to ensure that we have financial solvency and we're not overlooking something that may be small that turns into something bigger. So just want to add that to you as well. So with that, it's a presentation. You're not asking for approval tonight.
That's
correct? Okay.
So
Not
thank
hearing
you so
any
much for
additional
having me here
Well,
this
thank
evening.
you so much, and thank you for being patient and staying with us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And next we'll move to H2, the Universal Design for Learning Tier 2 Supports Report. Dr. Sheffield.
Good evening. I am here tonight to present our presentation on Support for Every Child report. Tonight we'll be looking at Tiers 1 and Tier 2 supports, and my plan is to really take you through a presentation that will kind guide you through some of the processes that our teachers take our students through. So that I will introduce a few of the things that they do in their classes, and then we'll have an opportunity to hear from a couple of our principals as well as our instructional sports specialists. And so as we get started, next slide. Oh, I have the clicker. I'm in charge. Here we go. And so as we take a look at the lens through which we focus our work, and so tonight we will be really focusing in on our Culture Center goals. In particular, looking at A for academic, arts, and athletics. We will include belonging and community and collaboration, but these are the things that we are looking at through all our tiers as we look at our multi-tiered systems of support. And so one of the ways that we introduce our lessons within our classes, specifically in our elementary schools, is we always guide our lessons, looking at the why. What are we doing with our class? And so we have our essential question. So our essential question for this report is, how do our district areas of focus, multi-tiered systems of support, universal design for learning, and teacher clarity, which includes learning targets and success criteria, work together to help us meet the needs of our students so that they all have access to grade level content and learning. So really taking a look at what we can do to make sure we have a feeling for all students to be successful no matter what they bring to the classroom. And so we look at the sequence for teacher and student clarity. And so what are we doing? What are our students going to be learning? And how do we know they're successful at it? So we start off with our state standards, looking at the rigor and looking at the skills that our students need to accomplish at the grade level in the content area. Next, from those state standards, we identify learning targets. What are the students supposed to learn and be able to do? These should be written in student-friendly language so that our students know when they come into class, this is what we're working towards today. And then defining what the success criteria is. So by the end of the lesson, how will our students demonstrate their knowledge? And so as we are participating in our learning walks and visiting classrooms, we're looking at our learning targets, and we even ask our students, how do you know if you learned this? And they should be able to explain that to us. This comes from our work that we have been doing for a few years with Fisher and Fry. And so we spent a few years really honing in on teacher clarity and student clarity, and really identified that these are key parts to ensure we're providing high quality Tier 1 instruction. And so our learning target for tonight is learning how our district focus areas work together to move forward to equitable outcomes for all students. How will we know that you guys are having the opportunity to reach this? So being able to explain the relationship between learning targets and success criteria, and how teachers' awareness and intentional use of these items help us to meet the needs of all of our students. Describe Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions and how students are supported within them. And then compare and contrast the types of interventions to how supports is provided in our schools. And so this is our learning target for tonight and our success criteria for tonight. At the end, we will revisit. So this is our multi-tier systems of support, and we've been through this process all last year. And so this is the academic lens to our MTSS model. And so we are going to look at here, you see on this model, our Tier 1. And as Dr. Maldonado spoke to, we should have 80% of our students in this level, all the time. So this is what all of our students should get all the time. And within that, they should have standards-based instruction. They should have instructional practices, including our academic conversations. That's the collaboration within the classes. Universal design for learning, differentiation, and then, of course, we have our assessments, diagnostic, formative, and summative. Within that Tier 1, we know that we have a wide variety of students that are in our classrooms. And so within that tier one, we have that triangle within a triangle. And so being able to provide that universal design for learning strategies within that class, we might have small groups of students within that classroom participating in doing the same activity in a different way. And then individual instruction. If the teacher needs to provide some one-on-one supports for that student, it should be able to happen within that classroom. So that is our triangle within a triangle. Again, moving up to our tier two, which is that smaller percentage, about 15% of our students, and then 3 to 5. Those are our students that might be on an IEP. It might be some of our emerging multilingual learners that might be dually identified in that tier, but it's a much smaller group. We are really focusing in right now. I'm going to talk about tier one, and then we'll move up the other tiers. And so how are we making these decisions? How do we identify where we need to go? So data is that answer. So really taking a look at our California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, so our CASP, our LPAC test that we've spent time talking about, using data from our STAR, and we will be honing in on our STAR data and our STAR data reports in the next report that we bring to the board in the month of March. And then our classroom formative and summative assessments. So these are teacher-created assessments that are utilized within the classroom that's going to inform them. But that's not all that we use. We definitely need to look at our students' strengths, their needs, their interests, and their preferences. Taking all these things into considerations, our teachers collaborate every week in our professional learning communities, in our PLCs. They utilize that. They make decisions based on the information that they have received during the week. They go back to class and they hone in and identify where they need to support their students. So we introduced this roadmap, high quality tier one instruction roadmap at the beginning of this year for our teachers. Again, taking a look at our ABCs, every child, every chance, every day. If we focus on our learning targets and success criteria, really knowing what we want to do and how do we know we got there, utilizing our data, our sense of belonging, knowing our students by name, face, and story, and then providing opportunities for our students to collaborate, our teachers to collaborate, and having the student voice within the classroom. So as we talk about tier one, we brought up this idea of universal design for learning. And so this is a picture that I have here. It says, what's necessary for some is good for all. And so within this picture, we have someone that may need this ramp to get up, but there are others that benefit from it. So someone can also skate if they wanted to. They don't, and someone that needed to get up that ramp with their suitcase and someone to ride their bike. So is it necessary for some of those individuals? Not necessarily, but it is good for all of them. And so universal design for learning is that framework that's going to take our core classroom instruction and learning opportunities that's going to look at a wide range of learners. So we benefit from universal design from learning every day. We have our doors outside. We just implemented our new door system where we could push for us to enter, or we can go ahead and open that door with the knob. So we benefit from these adaptations every day, and we're trying to make these adaptations within our classrooms. I'm going to bring up one of our instructional sports specialists to begin to share information on universal design from learning. A lot of these concepts we have been implementing, but I wanted to make sure I introduce to you and show you, and then I'll share with you at the end one of the books that we're working with, which is called Seen, Heard, and Valued. The author's name is Leanne Jung, and you approved a contract for us to work with her through our SACE funds. We have been contracting to work with her on implementing Universal Design for Learning strategies with our teachers, and she will be visiting us also on March 4th to present additional information for our teachers. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ms. Nellie Hill to continue with the presentation.
Thank you. I believe on this slide are some excerpts that you could read at your leisure. I'm not going to read them out loud to you. They got them? Okay, great. And so that's just some of the information that we have been sharing with teachers, with MTSS TOSAs, and with administrators on the role of Universal Design for Learning and the connections to teacher clarity. And this slide is just a quick high-level summary of how these two concepts relate. So what's common is that we have firm goals for all students, and those are based on standards. The next connection is that we have flexible means so that students can meet the goals, and that relates to calling out the success criteria that would relate to those firm goals. So how do students know they can be successful? How do teachers know how to scaffold levels of success towards proficiency, how to allow multiple means for that engagement and for the expression of the learning. The Universal Design for Learning, if you're into education and instruction, has been around for a little while. Our uptake of it, it might be at a different timeline than other areas. I think what is interesting about our uptake of Universal Design for Learning systemically is that it mirrors our uptake of the Universal Access implementation. So that's why we have this slide in here. As teachers increased the variability in their classrooms by combining students to give universal access to grade level standards, that really necessitated the pedagogical shift towards supporting all students, towards recognizing that we will always have variability in our classrooms, and to provide support and to provide instruction for classrooms with variability, which, let's face it, is all classrooms. We needed to up our game instructionally, and we needed support for that, and we found that in the framework for Universal Design for Learning. So the professional learning that we're doing in that area as a system is really designed to support teachers, to support all students as we engage in universal access. But anecdotally, many teachers have said, this is the work we should be doing anyway. We should be improving our instruction towards universal design, because in any class, whether it's an AP class or a newcomer English learner class, kindergarten, high school, junior high, there is variability always in our classes. And variability can be an asset if we have good instructional practices to make it usable and safe. So just a couple of resources to know about. The original organization that wrote the UDL framework is called CAST. They have a really wonderful website that includes tons of resources, information. I've done a little screenshot here of their guidelines, which go with the framework of UDL. And the guidelines help us identify strategies and high leverage strategies that would support all students as we improve our instruction. So if you want to improve your instruction, you need new strategies. How do you pick those strategies? You need to go to find the guidelines, the sort of North Star around this idea of educating a variable audience and leveraging the assets of the students with the variable interests and talents in your room. What we really enjoyed in the work that we've been doing, and when I say we, I mean, education nerds like the instructional support specialists, but also administrators, the MTSS TOSAs, and teachers, is the work we've been doing with Leanne Young. Her book, I highly recommend it. You're going to have a copy if you don't already. Seen, Heard, and Valued is a really accessible, intelligent book that layers on some really important work to the Universal Design for Learning framework and guidelines. It takes the work of understanding jagged learner profiles, that there is no average. Average is a myth. And it normalizes Universal Design for Learning as best practice pedagogy, where the original implementation of Universal Design has its roots in supporting learners with specific learning disabilities, which is necessary for some and good for all, and takes it to this paradigm where it's actually really good for all. And we recognize that we don't need to wait until somebody has a need. We can anticipate variability, and we can plan in a way that we know is good for all. So don't wait till there's an issue where somebody needs support, but know that we're going to have variability in all types of beautiful ways and plan for it. So I think that's it for my part of, are we on to, okay. There we go. So now we're on to La Cumbre Junior High. Welcome.
Thank you, Nellie. Good evening. It's clear that Universal Design for Learning in our district is meant to expand access and remove barriers. I'm Dr. Bradley Brock, Principal La Cumbre, and we're living that firsthand at La Cumbre every day. And I'm here to just give you just a portrait into what it looks like at the classroom level for both teachers and students. So at La Cumbre and all of our Santa Barbara Unified Schools, we've been working together as a staff in partnership with district instructional support specialists to increase student talk on all subject areas at that tier 1 level that Dr. Sheffield referenced, that bottom part of the pyramid, 80% of those students. This graphic on the left represents this ongoing work. Instead of the sage on the stage approach, which is what I think we all experienced when we went to school, where the teacher does all the talking through lecture, we're gradually releasing responsibility by shifting to balance teacher talk with student talk. Our MTSS TOSA, Katie Pelly, in collaboration with Trisha Polstra, the District Emergent Multilingual Instructional Support Specialist, worked to facilitate this professional learning experience that we had in December, which this photo on the right represents. It shows our teachers learning the language routine that they will teach students, just like we did tonight. They had learning targets, success criteria, and engaged each other in the protocol. Go to the next slide. Part of the unit that our ELA 8 teachers were engaging in, this is actually an example from Mrs. Moore's ELA 8 classroom. Students are reading New Kid, which is that graphic novel about starting over at a new school where diversity is low and the struggle to fit in is real. Our students really connected to this story, and part of the unit involves students using the language routine called Stronger and Clearer. And this routine normalizes, as Nellie just referenced, the use of academic language for students by giving them the tools, and you can see here on the left and right these sentence frames, to really help our students frame their conversation and get them starting to talk. As part of this unit, they were asked to record their conversation on their iPad and then upload it into Canvas as their assessment. So we're just going to listen in on a 30-second audio that 2 8th grade students made to get their ideas stronger and clearer.
Hello, I'm James.
I'm Caleb. I'm Julian.
And we're going to be hello, I'm James.
I'm Caleb. I'm Julian.
And we're going to be talking about the new kid.
I think that the main difference between Jordan's mom and his dad is that his mom wants Jordan to live a better life, but in the way that limits the freedom that he would otherwise normally have.
His mom is attempting to associate him with kids of a higher level of education they had at a younger age.
His dad, however, wants Jordan to have more educational freedom and has more empathy for his difficult situation than his mom does.
I think the reason that Jordan is portrayed as a baby is because he feels powerless in the situation of his parents arguing about their separate views about Jordan's future.
Great, so that's just I think a demonstration of the power of these routines for our students. There's no shortage of talking in our classrooms, but to give them these structures really helps us to demonstrate that when students are doing the talking, they're doing the learning. Thank you.
And so we just took a journey through our Tier 1 instruction. I thought it was extremely important to talk about our Tier 1 instruction because that's where the bulk of our students are. That's where that primary instruction begins. And prior to moving to Tier 2, as you remember through Dr. Maldonado's presentation, she talked about that our triangle is not necessarily a triangle. Our data is not showing that right now. And so we want to change the trajectory of our triangle. We really want the majority of our students to be at Tier 1 so that we can have that smaller percentage at Tier 2 to really concentrate and provide some productive Tier 2 interventions. And so now we have Mr. Gabe Sandoval from Cleveland Elementary to share information about Tier 2 instruction.
Board, good evening. I want to address Tier 2 and what we call at Cleveland Power Hour. And I believe my colleagues, I think most of them are going into that name of Power Hour. But the name is not as important as what it does. I think when I was tuning in a couple weeks ago, Board Member Escobedo said, well, how do you get there, or what happens, or how are they chosen, or what do you do? And so specifically, I'm going to address that question that was posed at the last board meeting through this process. So I hope your success criteria are met after this. So in Tier 2, it begins with assessments and a screener. And for example, we use the STAR. The STAR assessment will tell you some general information, and it can also dig in. And so we can look at a student and we look at their percentile rank as our first glance and say, wow, they're at a 20th percentile rank in this. So we need to address that. We can also look, for example, math in STAR and say, well, we also have students at 20th to 49th percentile. They may need something that's different, but different than the student that is below the 20th percentile. So we treat every student as an individual, and this is the first way we get in. Through that screener, we continue to dig in, and we start choosing evidence-based instruction. Our materials, those strategies, all the things that we do are evidence-based. And I want you to remember that Tier 2 is not a thing. It's systems you put in place to address specific gaps. And so if you look at that piece where it says instructional strategies, what the Power Hour does is it's rotations about 15 to 20 minutes, rotating through different stations and working with different instructors. So it requires some personnel, it requires some differentiation of materials, but you're looking at the adjusted duration, which means do they need more time with that? Frequency, do they need more days? Or is the size of group need to change? Is it 1 student? Is it 4 students? All those little adjustments are intervention. And you can also look at, do they need a different material, a different way to approach it, and do they need a different instructor? So those are the things that you're looking at when you're starting to make instructional decisions. And that all comes through that first base of the screener. As that teacher starts making those decisions, we start progress monitoring. Is it working? And there's a cycle for that. And I'll go into that in the next slide. But it's about every 2 weeks you do a check-in. You don't wait 2 months. You do it every 2 weeks, and you start making those adjustments. For example, STAR also does CBMs, which is called curriculum-based measurement. Does not matter what material you're using. You can use the CBM to go into that skill that you are targeting. So CBM is not about the material you're using. And so everything that you're using in your instruction, you can progress monitor with whatever you choose to do. Once you start progress monitoring, it starts telling you more of the story, and given the progress, you determine adjustments or not. Again, you look in duration, frequency, you start looking at group size, material, you start adjusting the instruction. Either you are exiting or you're going back and you're starting that cycle again. So this is the system that's in place in our elementaries to continue to hone in on what students need. And you can even do this with SEL through screeners as well and start targeting those behaviors that you're seeing and trying to adjust. When you're working on social emotional learning as well. So this process works in science, content standard, those kinds of things as well. So in different content. Some of the benefits we're seeing in elementary at Cleveland and with talks with my colleagues is it's all data driven and it's based on learning outcomes, not based on hunches, not based on a curriculum, it's based on learning outcomes. You're also looking at real-time feedback, like I mentioned, the 2-week cycles. Sometimes it's 1-week cycle check-ins, depending on the specific need. It's targeted. You're doing a prescription and a treatment plan for those individual students. It's collaborative. The teacher's not the only one looking at the data. I'm looking at it. Our MTSS lead team's looking at it. Our coaches are looking at it. Our SLT, our instructional leadership team's looking at it. Our PLCs are looking at it. Our SST process is looking at it. So it's very collaborative. And then it's inclusive. Students aren't getting labeled. They're staying in the class. It's a push-in model. There are students that are in subcategories like EML, special ed, that are also getting these doses outside of other things that they're receiving as well. So it's a boots on the ground, 1 hour, just strategic about what a kid needs, what students needs, and then we come in collaboratively to see how do we support the teacher with how it's going. So I wanted you to get a glimpse of what it looks like at Cleveland, and it looks at most of our elementaries for Tier 2. I think that. That's you. Yes.
And so we have not stopped with Tier 2 in our elementaries. I want you to keep in mind that Tier 2 does look a little bit different as we move into the secondary schools. And so as an example, we're really honing in. One thing I need to say is Tier 2 is not instead of Tier 1. Tier 2 is in addition to Tier 1. And so we needed to make sure we identified how we can make the opportunities for students to participate in Tier 2 intervention and not miss out on that high quality Tier 1 instruction. So beginning of semester 2, all junior high and high schools are going to be will provide Tier 2 literacy intervention. So we're piloting a program called Lexia. We do work with Lexia already, and we're moving this into our secondary space. It will be Power Up, focusing on developing literacy for grades 7 through 12. So it's a computerized program, and it provides targeted lesson plans for teachers. So it's not a program without teachers. We definitely need our teachers to help ensure students are getting this intervention and ensuring our students are participating and making successes. Teachers will provide small group instruction for the students, and then we will use the STAR data to identify the students and progress monitor. So just as it was mentioned for Cleveland Elementary and Power Hour at our elementary sites, that STAR data is going to be used, and we will continue to progress monitor our students to identify their strengths, their weaknesses, and areas that we need to concentrate on. I didn't want to leave you there. There are next steps. And so as we started this second semester in our elementary sites, we introduced Freckle as an opportunity for our elementary teachers to use within the classes, as well as our leaders. That focuses in on providing opportunities for Tier 2 instruction in English and math in our elementary sites. And we're finalizing our plans for Tier 2 for literacy, which has been finalized, as well as math interventions. In our elementary schools for February, targeted Freckle training and monitoring data. And then in our secondary sites, we are ensuring that we have these implementations of math and literacy in place, and we will continue to provide that opportunities throughout the semester. In March, we're providing the UDL professional learning opportunities. So starting March 4th, we will have Leanne Jung here meeting with our secondary teachers, and then March 5th, she will be meeting with our elementary sites. Ongoing progress monitoring for Tier 2 interventions in April, May, and continuing on to the end of the year, and then sharing a final draft of our comprehensive Santa Barbara Unified MTSS plan. So we are working very closely as a team, that Student Services, Ed Services, our data and assessment team, to put together a MTSS plan handbook that really addresses meeting the needs of our all students, identifying what tier they fall in, and if we need to provide different interventions, and a system in which we will make sure that works out, all using data to guide our decisions. So we come to our test. I know it was quick, but we will go back to our learning targets and success criteria. Our focus was to look at how the district focus areas work together to move forward in equitable outcomes for all students. And I'm hoping that you can explain relationship between learning targets and success criteria, and how teachers' awareness and intentional use of these help meet the needs of all students. Describe Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions and how they support the students. And then compare and contrast the different types of interventions and how it's provided in our schools. And that is the end of our presentations. Any
Thank you for that.
questions?
There's no request to speak. There's a request to speak.
We have one public commenter. We have Moni DeWitt.
Oh, there she is.
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. I appreciate your report and the basic idea of screening, progress monitoring, but just since I have such limited time, our district right now was smart to get the science of reading, but we're well aware that our teacher training will take 3 years. But our community has an excellent resource of educational therapists, there are about 150 of them in private practice, who know really well, like, several science of reading approaches. And so one of the things that is not really explicitly addressed in our presentation is, what are we doing to remediate those older students who are multiple years behind? And I can tell you what is typically done is that many of them need intensive intervention. So I'm wondering what the length, the frequency. Most of the time when it's done for students, they do it in the summer. A student that we helped that was got 2 years ahead, a philanthropist paid for it, was 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 8 weeks in the summer. And she was able to get up to the 6th grade and had been, like, I think, in a 3rd grade level. So power hour is good, but I don't think an hour is going to cut it for a lot of these kids who didn't have the benefit. I think the district going forward, the younger ones are going to be okay, because in 2025 we have to do screening, so we'll catch them earlier. See, our Tier 2 doesn't catch kids till the 3rd grade, and Harvard did a study that we can catch kids before they even step into kindergarten. So I think we need to talk about this explicitly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I get everything? Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any additional board members' comments or questions?
I have a question. It is actually about that power hour, so I just want a little
Yes.
clarification on that. So it is literally an hour, and is that correct?
That's one strategy, but it happens throughout the day. Oh, sorry. Power hour is one strategy to get into some targeted skills in there, but it's happening throughout the day. So in the maths areas, in the science area, so it's happening throughout the day. But this power hour is specifically on some of the foundational skills as well. In ELA is where we have decided to spend that hour, that power hour. But it happens throughout the day in different capacities as well.
Okay, so just to be more clear, so you identify Tier 2 interventions that are needed, and it's integrated because students are separated within the classroom with a specialist, or, I mean, throughout the week, as you identify every 2 weeks if there's an issue that needs to be addressed? Like, I'm just trying to figure out how that works in the classroom.
So there are curriculum specialists that are there. So every hour they switch on to a new grade. So there's 1st grade has a specific hour, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and so we will send curriculum specialists to that grade level. We have some bilingual paras that have a role in there, the teacher's role, MTSS specialists. So there are adults that are in there, and then also the materials also are factors in there as well. So we send the team in for an hour with that grade level, and then we alternate, and then the next grade level throughout the day.
Okay.
And that starts, kindergarten is adjusted a little bit, but it's 1st grade through 6th grade, and kindergarten has a variation of it.
Any additional question, board members? Mr. Escobedo?
So thank you. Thank you to Principal Sandoval and Principal Brock and Dr. Sheffield. And I'm forgetting. I'm so.
Nellie Hill, instructional
Hill.
sports specialist.
Thank you. So this actually hit at what I was asking about at the last board meeting. So it does meet the success criteria. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I also appreciated the reading that you sent us prior to this presentation. And so for future board meetings, if anyone else is listening, if you want to send us reading, you can't send us too much reading before an agenda item. But one of the things that we saw earlier in the superintendent's report is that the conclusion that we have too many of our students in Tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing to beef up Tier 1 to make sure that we're preventing our kids from even getting to Tier 2?
And so that's why we are truly spending time to concentrate to make sure it's a clear message for all teachers to understand that, number one, we developed a high-quality Tier 1 instructional roadmap. And these are the key things that we want to concentrate on this year. Really concentrating on some simple things, but those simple things that make a difference for our students. So really knowing what we need to teach our students, identifying that standard, making sure all teachers are clear, that clarity is extremely important, and then knowing how our students will reach that. Having that data to guide those discussions within our professional learning communities, that data is going to help them identify what they're going to be working for on a regular basis, day to day, and the criteria in which they're going to use, and then that data that they're going to use regularly and go back, talk about it, make changes and adjustments so that they can go back and ensure our students are successful. Utilizing and introducing and developing our teachers more and providing them opportunity to implement more strategies within their instruction so that clear concentration on universal design for learning. Really making sure that they have additional tools in their tool belt so that they can address the variety of learners, and that comes ahead of time. And so within universal design for learning, it talks about planning ahead of time. So we're not differentiating when we talk about universal design for learning. We're planning ahead of time, identifying our students' strengths, weaknesses, their preferences, and who our students are. So really becoming aware of who our students are is extremely important. Putting those things in play as they plan, and then that helps up the opportunities for our students to be successful in that Tier 1. By concentrating on that and making sure all teachers are there, we really believe that our teachers will build up their skills. We will narrow that need to go to Tier 2. And keep in mind, our Tier 2 is in addition to and not in place of. We don't want to keep pulling our students out of that Tier 1. We want to make sure they get that Tier 1, and if it's a need, then they go to Tier 2.
Yeah, and I think one of the neatest things about this approach, and what struck me so much from the excerpt that you sent us from the Seen, Heard, and Valued, was the idea of getting to know the students. And when you're asking for comprehension, you're not dictating how they demonstrate comprehension. You're letting them demonstrate it in whatever way makes sense to them.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was extremely powerful. And back about a year ago, when Mr. Banning and I were visiting each of the school sites, we actually got to witness a universal access class, and we got to talk to the teacher. And one of the things that jumped out at me that I did not expect, because I think for a layperson like myself, you hear about universal design or universal access, and it seems quite challenging and it seems very overwhelming. In talking with the teacher, she loved it, and she thought it was what we should have been doing all along. And she talked about the joy of being able to have all of her students in the room at one time and teaching to the student based on their needs, their interests, challenging them enough because, right, it's about not where you are now, but where you have the capacity to go. And I think there's something really powerful about that. And so all of the work that you're doing here, all of the work that we're seeing from our school site leadership, our teachers, there's a lot to be optimistic about, but there's a long way to go, as we did here from our public commenter. And so one thing that I am quite encouraged about is the STAR testing information. So, Principal Sandoval, the one thing that I was looking for from the STAR testing is what sort of information do we get and how insightful is it? And I think you included, we're able to understand what percentile that student is in particular categories and use that information for things like Power Hour, other Tier 2 interventions. I think the more that you can bring those examples to us, I think it's really helpful for us to understand, but also for parents and the public to understand about what sort of interventions we're actually doing and how we're using this data. We talk a lot about data, but sometimes it seems kind of like this ambiguous idea of numbers, and it's hard to attach that to our students and individuals. And so one thing that came through in this presentation, but also the reading, is that there is an emphasis on the individual.
Absolutely.
And getting to know the students. And I want to see and hear a little bit more about that in other areas when we're talking about MTSS, because sometimes it does feel a little bit removed from the student experience, and I think this did a really good job of giving us that insight, so thank you.
Ms. Bill, did you have a comment, Ms. Bill? Sunita, did you have an additional comment?
I always have 100 questions, but I think Gabe alluded to this. How are parents involved in understanding what's going on with their individual child? At conferences, is there interventions mentioned? I mean, how's that link made with the family, which I think is
I'm
important?
going to let my principals talk about that a little bit. Parents.
I can take the elementary. So one of the ways we do is we do midpoint notices, which is right midway between the report card. We actually will fill out a form, and it goes through Aries to notify parents what interventions the students are receiving. And then also in conferences, one of the requirements at Cleveland is to print out the STAR with some of the standards and some of the strength and deficit areas that they want, so they get to see it, and we present that at the conferences as well. So we use STAR as a guide because it can speak to parents in different languages of grade level equivalency, instructional reading level. So there's a lot of things in that area that we use. So we use it at conferences, and we also do midpoint notices to notify the parents what the interventions look like.
Additional questions, board members? Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. I do just have a couple of comments, back to the learning lesson. I won't say tonight that I can explain that, but eventually I will be able to do that. So I know a little bit more than I knew the last time, so I really appreciate the presentation there, and thank you all for staying late and being just as enthusiastic as if it was like 7 o'clock, so I appreciate that. But what I take away from this is that the word variability, I think you used, and not just that word, because some may think that as a challenge, but the word, I think, Ms. Hill, you said the beauty of it. And I don't think we realize that there is a beauty in the variability. And and when we're looking through an equitable lens, when we're looking through an inclusive lens, there's the beauty. And the beauty also is expanded with regards to looking at it at an individual student level. Mm-hmm. We're looking at your individual beauty and your individual variability. How can we do that as a district as a whole to see that? And that's also a part of how we be very inclusive in our district of all feel seen, valued, and heard. So I really appreciate that, and we actually look forward to reading the entire book. And so just appreciate the short that you sent us. And so I want to just take a step back to where are we connecting this with pre-K? How strong are we having them come in? And so they're strong when they're coming in that level, and less of that is moving to intermission 2 because we're coming in with pre-K and TK now. But even how we articulating with our preschools, giving them, having a conversation with them, how we can have those students come in a lot stronger. Absolutely. What does that look like? So if you could just kind of expand on that.
So we are working, so our director of preschools does participate in all of our professional learning. So she participates with our principals, and then we are providing opportunities for those preschool teachers to participate in professional learning. Okay. And so specifically identifying practices that are put in place for our preschool students. And then taking that a step further, we're in conversation about providing opportunities for our preschool to really identify how our students are coming in so that we can feed that information to our TK. So that is our next step so that we can make sure that these TK students are knowing what our pre-K students are doing. So we are doing a little bit different professional learning for them, but they are provided with that opportunity, and our director does participate in these conversations and is very aware of what we're expecting to happen, but knowing that they are the littles, and so they're doing much different things.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'd love to see at some point, I know it'll be some later on data, how is that work? How is that actually coming in and correlating to working with preschool early? And then my last comment would be that how all of this work that we're doing and the adaptability that's happening, we're moving and adapting where we need to be able to do that, which is really, really, really crucial. But to then when we see the data of where students are proficient, how is that correlating that? I want to see that connection too. I believe that it's going to happen, but when we see it on the data that we're sending out, it's because they're proficient or more proficient as a result of this.
Absolutely. It is our hope that we change that, the way the data looks, and we really get that true triangle.
Yep.
And it starts with elementary. It starts with our pre-K, right? And then through elementary, and it is our hope that as they get to that secondary stage, that they are better prepared, and we need less tier 2 for our secondary students.
Yeah, because that intervention at that next level is much more costly than the prevention on the front end.
Absolutely.
So I just really appreciate where we're going there. These are just comments, but I just want to also echo the questions that have been asked by my colleagues as well. So, and just again, appreciate the presentation and helping us getting a takeaway, and that we should be able to articulate, what you said to us. But again, not tonight, but the next time I'll do my homework and make sure we're doing that. So, you have to come.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thank you to the team. Thank you to the principals. You are dismissed. I know you guys have an early morning, and Miss Nellie Hill too. I do want to say to the comment, I did send the board some changes to the governance calendar, so you will see a presentation that now addresses the next set of questions on the STAR assessment and give you a brief example of what that will look like, and that'll be presented by Mr. Vance and Ms. Pilhofer, I believe on the 13th, the 27th, February 27th, so coming on the 27th.
Okay. All right, so that moves us to one last item, board members, and then the committees, what we just wanted to get that done and out of the way, and then we can.
Yeah, so basically, Sandra sent you this sheet of paper. You can see it on your screen. I will take notes for the committee meetings. Ms. Munoz is not here tonight, but I just want to call out that she did sign up for the Santa Barbara County of Ed Committee, Santa Barbara Charter School, and the DEMLAC. So those are the ones that we gave her at the last one, but we'll take it from the top. So for the audit committee, we did have Mr. Banning step into that role along with Ms. Wendy Sims Moulton. Do we want to keep that in place?
I'm good with that unless it was, okay.
Okay. Then for the SEAC, or the Special Ed Advisory Committee, we currently have Ms. Munoz, but she's chosen other committees, so we need a representative there. Okay. Dr. Beal. And you'll notice in the document, the meetings are quarterly, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Sustainability Committee, we currently have Mr. Escobedo. Do we have desire to continue there, or?
Sure. For a lot of these, I've never been noticed for a meeting, and this is one of them. So.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of
I will talk to Desmond about that. I know he runs this committee, so I will make sure to get that information from him. First strike against Desmond. Okay.
No, he's been working hard being saving, so I got to fit my Desmond.
From me.
I got you, Desmond, if you're listening. Keep those savings coming, too.
Yeah. The next one is the District Emergent Multilingual Learner Advisory Committee, and again, Ms. Munoz was on it. It looks like she's interested in staying on, unless somebody else wants to take it. Okay, we'll keep Rose in there. Hope you're listening, Rose. The next one is the Housing Ad Hoc, which is currently Mr. Escobedo and Ms. Wendy Sims Moulton. Do we want to keep you there as well, or does somebody else want to? Okay, we'll keep Mr. Escobedo and Ms. Sims Moulton. Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, we currently have Ms. Sims Moulton. Ms. Moen, do you want to continue?
Sure, unless some other board member wants to participate.
Anybody else
I'm fine with
interested in
supporting.
meetings with the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation? They're first Monday of the month, it's 5 to 6:30.
I'll serve as a backup for you.
Okay.
Okay, great. South Coast Task Force on Youth Safety, it meets 4 times a year, Wednesdays 2 to 5, and I know, Mr. Escobedo, you've mentioned there's 2 of them. I'm looking at Mr. Shetler, there's a legislative committee and a policy and strategy. So there's actually 2 sets of meetings that happen with this one
That I've never been invited
that you've
to.
not invited to.
Yet.
So we're not blocking you.
Yeah.
We could, I've only been invited to one myself so far.
That's okay.
So do you want to stay on?
Yeah, let's
Okay. And Ms. Sims Moulton also?
Yeah, I'm the backup.
It's taking up a lot of
Okay.
time in my schedule.
Santa Barbara County School Boards Association, this is the one we put in Ms. Munoz in already. Delante Charter School, Mr. Banning has been taking those meetings. Do you want to continue? Okay, thank you. And then Santa Barbara Charter School, I think Rose is also signed up to stay on.
Yep.
And then last, Legislative Affairs Committee, we had Ms. Sims Moulton and Ms. Alvarez, so do we have another person that wants to join that committee? That means monthly. It's basically, it would be the 3 of us looking at bills, propositions, things that are coming up. For example, one thing I'll mention, there is a proposition that's hopefully going to make it to the ballot to make financial literacy in high school a requirement. That's something that I think as the board, we might want to take a position to support that. Of course, I know Dr. Sheffield will want to weigh in on that class requirement. So you look at policies, you look at legislative coming down the pike and decide if you want to take action or not. We can arrange
Yeah,
it between us. We can
yeah.
decide between us the pattern. Okay? Great. So that takes care of the committees.
Okay, I think that's our last report discussion item. And as you know, board members' coming events, are there anything significant that we're missing?
We did send you the VIP calendar for coming events for signing up for back to school nights.
Okay.
We're celebrating National Black African American History Month.
Right. I think we got that.
There is a, no, never mind, that's a nonprofit event.
Okay. Yeah, and board members, you have access to the VIP calendar, right? We might have to resend it again. Access.
So in my board note, I
Board
put a link to the VIP calendar.
Okay.
If the link's not working, I'll be happy to reset
This last
access.
board note, this-
It's last Friday's board note.
Okay.
It's an Excel, a link to an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Last Friday, okay. I think those are there. Future agenda items, Mayor, this is where we want items specifically that we want to make sure they're getting on the agenda. Do we still have a list with that? I think that might be, maybe at our next meeting, we can look at, see if we covered some of the things that we wanted to come forth.
So if we pull up the governance calendar.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Coming up in February, which we talked about, a budget study session, I'll move that item over.
Yep.
We will be doing the LCAP a little earlier this year, right, Mr. Vance? With the intention to bring some of the planning before March, knowing that we won't adopt the budget until June. We will have a progress report on from the Racial Oversight Committee.
Okay.
And so on. So I don't see, we are moving the student outcomes report as well.
Okay. So that updates us as to.
I feel like we talked about another item, but it's not coming to
Yeah, I
mind. I
can't think of it. I
apologize.
thought we did. It'll probably come up after tonight, but we could put it on there. Okay, so, we know we're gonna be adjourning this meeting to our next meeting, which is February 13th, Tuesday here at the board. All right, so this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Davne.